Hi, I'm Mike Anderson, and I come to you live every day from Eco Training Pridelands Conservancy in South Africa. The wild animal I think is most underrated. I think buffaloes are the most underrated. They're so tenacious and ferocious, and also very, very protective of each other, which I find incredible. You know, sometimes people think of the big five, they just think of lions and leopards and other big animals, but I think buffaloes are pretty underrated. Join me on my next adventure in the African wild on channel 183 on DSTV.
This program features live coverage of an African safari and may include animal kills and carcasses. Viewer discretion is advised.
Good morning, everyone, and a warm welcome to you in the Masai Mara of Kenya. We have a very nice, beautiful sunrise. My name is Tim, and welcome aboard to your very own safari live from the African wilderness. Good morning, everyone, and a very warm welcome to you in the Masai Mara of Kenya. We have our little tiny beautiful cub and the mother resting there. My name is Tim, and behind camera we have Big Tim. What a nice surprise this morning to wake up and driving on the road, just coming across Bahati and her mom. We have a very nice weather this morning, about 17 degrees Celsius, 62 degrees Fahrenheit. Remember, for your question and comments, please don't hesitate to send us through #WildEarth. For our young viewers, kids question at wildearth.tv, on the YouTube comment section at FC. I like how the sun is rising, slowly covering itself into the clouds. Can hear the birds chirping. What a nice, beautiful view. Now here on the road we have Bahati, the little lion, and her mom. Look at how she's hugging the mom. What a cute one. Seems like they were walking around the road and then mom decided to rest. Kelly, such cuteness. This is super, super cute. Look at how she's staring at us. So this is what makes lions, when they grow up, to be independent, to be habituated to the vehicle. Look at just how mom is resting there. And as the cars drive past, this little cub will also get used to the vehicles. And when they become independent, they will be habituated to the vehicles. And right next to them, there's a young male there. He seems like a little bit sleepy, lazy this morning. Since it's a little bit chilly and these lions are resting on the road, I'm going to take you over to another live location.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome to andBeyond in Ngala. What we've got here is the Birmingham Pride, and it's been an interesting morning. We actually heard them calling from camp, and they were very close by, so it wasn't very difficult to find them. And as we were going, we found some buffalo close by, and they ended up chasing those buffalo. Now they've kind of separated. They're in the process of trying to regather and find each other all again. But anyway, welcome. My name is Dan, and behind the camera we've got OD. And this morning it looks like it's going to be a very hot day. It's been a bit chilly, but perfect weather at the moment. Nice and early in the morning for these lions to keep going, and that's exactly what I'm going to do. So stick by. I'm going to try and catch up to them again. They are definitely hunting. They haven't eaten in the past couple of days. So let's see if they can't manage to find something along the way. I mean, they're looking for bigger prey, such as buffalo. There's one of the older lionesses standing on that termite mound. You see how she's having a good look around. And the lionesses, the older ones, will be coordinating the hunt. And the cubs, this morning, they were a bit all over the show. But this is super important for them to learn. You see how she's looking and listening and smelling. And it was amazing to see their attitudes change when they saw those buffalo. They kind of went into a formation. The cubs were kind of running up and down. They didn't really blow the cover, but they were very, very close. They were probably a couple of feet away from taking one of those buffalo down. But what an amazing start. Here's some hyenas calling in the distance. You see how they're going into the bush. I mean, it's a nice, dense area. They'll use the cover as best they can. I think this morning with the buffalo, they were kind of just moving and they came across the buffalo more than anything. So let's keep going. Let's see if I can follow them and keep up with them. This lioness is also starting to move on our left. Oh, that's a tree I'm not allowed to drive over. I'm going to go around it. Watch your heads. Okay, so for the meantime, I'm going to probably send you somewhere else, but I'm going to stick with these lions, particularly while they're on the move, and see if they don't manage to find anything this morning.
Now mom is deciding whether to carry this little cub. The strong jaws that killed lots of animals, the same one that is carrying that cute cub. Can you imagine that? From what we saw yesterday with Isaac, this tiny cub, falling down in the canyon, I think mom wants to swap den, wants to take her maybe to a very secure den where it's away from that lion that is closer to the cub. You can see how she's snarling at that young lion there. Oh, that's super cute. Mom is not happy with that young male there because she knows definitely if he gets too close to the cub, then the cub might be in danger. So mom has to make sure that she keeps that cub away from that young lion there. That distance means that don't get any closer to my cub. Mothers will always be protective of their little ones. I've seen that with elephants, I've seen that with Thompson gazelles, and now with lion. Oh, look at that little climb on the back. That's Anne, yes, this is the same male. He was together with Olalashe, and I'm sure he's trying to get close because normally what happens when the cubs are this small, and you see the size of that male, to force that lioness into estrus, he has to kill the cub. But mom is not going to allow that. Staring at the vehicle, and this is how they get to become habituated to vehicles from that early age. It seems like mom has been having a hard time over the recent days, where she's trying to keep her from these intruders, but seems like they keep on following her. She's not yet found a suitable place where she can hide this cub. But I hope, and I'm sure she'll find a suitable den for her soon. Toby, this cub is a star from when you saw her dropping down at the canyon, how mom is keep on, protecting him or her. That's the reason why Isaac named him Bahati. Bahati means lucky one. And yes, he's a star. I like the way he's staring at us. Seems like, what are you guys looking at? So cute. She's clinging on to mom for warmth. It's a little bit chilly, but the road makes them warm a little bit. But by getting too close to mom, at least she can feel that attachment and warmth. Now, at this age, she will be dependent on mom. She's not yet started eating solid food, still nursing or lactating. So mom has to hunt. That's why she's looking for a suitable place to hide her. So I'm going to stick here and watch where they're going to go as I take you over to another live location.
Welcome back, everybody. And have a look here. How's this for a scene? These 7 members of the Birmingham Pride have come and lay right on top of a termite mound in all their glory and showing off. How's that in the morning light? Just watching, listening, trying to see what's happening around them. Right from the top of that termite mound, they've got an incredibly good vantage point. Particularly the older lionesses. Have a look at that one on the top there. You see how she's got, looks like some blood and things. Maybe she caught something small last night on the sides of her cheeks. She hasn't even had time to clean it off yet, or get one of her other Pride members to help her clean it off. They are fastidious groomers and look after each other and themselves incredibly well. Beautiful lighting. And it was so incredible to see. I mean, watching those older lionesses moving this morning through the bush, and you could see the intent. And those 2 young lionesses that have just gone and lay next to her, the way that they were watching mom, and how they were learning from her. Let me just listen. Listen, can you hear that? Roaring in the background. I wonder if that's not one of the Ross males. So there's, what's got their attention is some impala alarm calling. They're watching in the direction of the impala alarm calling. And if that impala alarm calling continues to go, I'm sure they'll get up and go and try and investigate. If it isn't a leopard that's maybe hunting and caught an impala, they'll be in there very quickly to steal it from that leopard. And the impalas are still alarming. I mean, going back to the story from yesterday, those impalas are going. I wonder if those lions that we heard calling from the western part of the reserve haven't come a bit further in, and they've moved east from where they were yesterday, and this calling and calling and calling, advertising their presence, is trying to warn those other lions. I'd be surprised if they come in. If they do, it means they mean business. See how they've poked their ears the other way? That's almost towards where the roaring has come from. Anna Marie, the Birmingham's posing for a photo shoot. I couldn't agree more. How's that right at the top of the termite mound? Really are posing. I wonder if they know just how good looking they are. And how's it for a scene? I mean, 5:45 in the morning. Sun has just come up. Beautiful lighting. Nice and cool in the morning. I really don't think they know just how good looking they are. So I'm going to spend a bit of time here for the next few minutes. I might actually go and investigate what those impalas are alarm calling at and have a look that side. But I'll send you somewhere else in the meantime.
I can see Mom is busy trying to protect the cub. She went after that young male and actually growled and almost gave him a slap. You can hear the cub calling. Can you hear that? Painted Wolf, I'm not sure where Bahati's father is, but seems like he went or moved off to another pride area, and I'm not even sure who the male lion that fathered that cub is, but we'll be happy to know. So this mother is doing a very tough job to protect this cub. Look at how she's growling at that male lion. Lionesses can be super aggressive whenever they have little cubs, and nothing that comes their way can ever stop her from protecting their cubs. This cub is unaware that there is danger around. See how innocent she is, or he, clinging on to Mom for protection. So the rest of the pride, I don't know where they are, but if they get a little bit closer to here, they can also assist Mom to push off that male away. She looks like super fit. Looks like Mom has been nursing her for a very good time. You can see how healthy that cub looks. But she's desperately calling for Mom to nurse her. It seems like Mom needs to take her to a den and maybe go out to hunt. Because when lionesses have cubs this size, they have to hunt on a regular basis. Because this young cub is totally dependent on mother's milk at the moment. The problem is, as soon as she tries to sneak this cub into a new den, Victor, thank you so much for your question. The land survival rate in the wild is about, I'll say 7%, because you find that most cubs will die before they get to about 2 years. So when they're this small, they can be vulnerable to hyenas, other land, and sometimes even buffaloes. When they walk around here, they can end up killing them by stampeding on them. So the mortality rate of cubs is so high when they're at this age, before they get to independence, which is about 2 years old. The sun is not too hot at the moment, so at least the cub can enjoy sunning. And normally, this is the best time that lions will bring out their cubs, and late afternoon as the sun is setting. I'm still going to hold on here. This cub looks so cute, and I would really want to know where she will take the cub, whether to a new den or to the old den, as I take you over to another live location.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Djuma Private Game Reserve in the Sabi Sands, where we've got a very elusive herd of elephants in the bushes over here. I hope you're all having a wonderful morning so far. My name is Steve. Hello, welcome to the show, and I'm joined by Theo, Island Style on camera, and as always, very excited to have you with us. We've picked up on some tracks, both a male and a female leopard track that Tristan and I are working on. Hang on one second. Stand by, Tristan. Tristan's following a male, I was following a female, and we found a herd of elephants. Just here, not far from camp, close to Galago. It is tricky sometimes when you find a herd of elephants right where you've got leopard tracks, because it means it's quite tricky to have a proper little scratch around. But the elephants will often indicate the presence of a large cat. They'll be quite annoyed with it. Quite irate, in fact. Right now, they're quite peaceful. Oh, hello, little one. I'm just going to allow you to just listen to a few of the morning sounds. Good morning, Jessica. You want to know when marula season is? Well, marula season, the flowers have been out already. So normally October, you can start counting the flowers on the trees. November, you start to see the fruits, and December, the fruits start to fill. And normally January, middle to late January, marulas are ripe and ready to be eaten. We've had quite a bit of rain, so it might actually happen a little bit earlier this year, maybe earlier January. Got some elephants in front as well, Thea. They're going to pop out in a moment. But it is that time of year when the elephants are going to go a little bit crazy for marulas. But right now, what they're doing is they're feeding almost exclusively on the wet, delicious, nutrient-rich grasses that are covering the ground at the moment. get very wet feet if you walk through there at the moment, so they get a lot of moisture on the grass. The marula season is a wonderful time of year. Not so much if you're sleeping in the DRC, where many of our friends will be sleeping, Theo. The big marula tree above a huge corrugated iron roof, and the marulas sound like shotguns when they hit the roof. It is definitely something that takes a bit of getting used to. But this western part of Kruger and the greater Kruger is where most of the marulas are found. So we have lots of elephants in these areas in the coming months. Hello, little one. He's like, oh, I feel like eating a bush today. Let me eat that little sickle bush. There we go. And they're very tasty and juicy. Lots of nutrients as well. That sickle bush has got no chance. It is a plant that's favoured by all the browsers. It's a very abundant plant as well. But that fellow is really going to struggle to get by in life when it gets fed upon like that. Did you hear that tummy rumble? It was not me. It came from the elephants. Oh, James, I can spend all day with a herd of elephants. Unfortunately, they do tend to disappear into the thickets. But they're always busy. And I've had some wonderful moments with them in the past. Excuse me. Sorry, young boy. I think he might have heard me sneeze and thought, what on earth was that noise? With a long nose like an elephant, I'm sure he knows all about sneezing.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to andBeyond Phinda Private Game Reserve. And this morning, we have first off found ourselves a herd of buffalo grazing just very early in the morning. My name is Ross, and behind the camera is Gerrit. And as I mentioned earlier, we are coming live from andBeyond Phinda Private Game Reserve this morning. So these buffaloes are, sure, they don't look like they are in any hurry to get going. If you have a look around, some of the individuals in this herd are actually still lying down. So I think this is exactly the spot where they had spent the night last night, and just as the sun rose over the mountains and started bathing them in sunlight, they've been aroused and from their sleep, and they are now slowly starting to get moving. See, these ones are actually starting to slowly move off in the direction to our right. And interestingly, within a buffalo herd, there are certain individuals that always take the initiative to direct the herd. It's not like they make a group decision and then decide where to go all at once. There's only a few individuals that have stronger personalities or a bit more sort of stubborn, that we call the pathfinders. And it's sometimes young females, it's sometimes old males, sometimes smaller bulls, sometimes bigger bulls, but it's very sort of random as to which individuals are the pathfinders, and there's quite a bit of research going into buffalo social structure as well. We don't know a lot about it, even though you think we kind of would, having been such easy animals to find and research. Look at that one there in your screen now. He's actually scratching his horns against that small bush. He might have a bit of an itch or a tick or a parasite. He's definitely not eating that bush, because buffaloes only eat grass. And that's why we're not surprised to find them out here in the grasslands of the southern part of Phinda. They only eat grass, and so there's lots of food for them here in this area. So our plan today is to search the grasslands of the south of Phinda for cheetah and lion. We haven't been able to find cheetah for a couple of days, except for last night, where we got very lucky with a mother and 2 cubs, if any of you are watching. So we're going to send you off to another location and see what we can find.
Welcome back, everybody. Well, we found that little
male and female
teenage elephant here, late teens, behaving like a teenager. He's been a little bit irritated, just trying to show us how big he is. Came right up to the car a moment ago. He's still looking at us. You see, a lot of people think the elephant's not paying attention, but he's looking over his shoulder at me. And he's on the outskirts of the herd, so he's in that sort of limbo zone when he's not really welcomed by the herd, and he hasn't yet gone off in search of a group of males to hang out with, so he's still trying to get in, but not getting the attention he needs, and so quite often they can behave really, really interestingly. He gave us a small little movement towards the car, a bit of a shake of the head, and then he put his foot up on a branch just next to us, which is quite cool. But we didn't respond to it. We didn't react and run away. And so he thought, oh no, these guys are more confident than I am. And then he started getting all shy, and then started going feeding, and then go and hide in the bush. It's classic young elephant bull behavior. It's always really wonderful to be able to see it happening. You can hear a Birchall's cuckoo in the background. So you're getting those comms. Sorry, I'm only getting a broken up radio there, Jared. I'm not getting your comms. I'm sorry about that. Just going to roll forward, see if we can get another view of him. I can roll without starting. It's always nice. No. No, Jared, your comms are just coming through with beeps, I'm afraid, so I'm sorry I can't hear you. He's trying to say, is it true, something about elephants? See his tail? Can you see how his tail is up? That's a classic sign of irritation. Although I think he might, he's scratching right now. He's got his belly on something. What are you scratching? Maybe I can go forward a bit. You might get him. What are you scratching on there, buddy? Oh, yeah, that little branch. There we go. A couple other boys hanging out with him here. Here comes his friend to say, why are you being so funny, young boy? Let me push you around. You see, 2 bulls, same age. Really, really nice to spend time with them. You can really interpret enormous amounts of their behavior if you just spend time with them and watch the dynamics, watch how they turn, and watch how very small gestures are followed by movements. You saw how this one that just arrived moved towards the other one and he moved away. A sign of submission in elephants is to turn one's shoulder. So if you see a big elephant coming towards another elephant, a sign of submission is to just turn around and show the shoulder. Okay, I'm just going to hold off speaking, Jade, because your comms are not coming through at all. I'm just hearing lots and lots of beeps.
Welcome back to andBeyond and Ngala, and have a look at what's just joined up with the rest of the pride is these two little cubs. Their mother, who they are currently suckling from, was very involved in the hunt this morning, and they were just playing catch up. Look how wet it is. Did you see how wet that little one was? The young white male just stood up. He's interested in some francolins that are shouting to our right-hand side, and even just behind this white male is the young Birmingham male who's joined up again. Interesting to see him so close to the Ross males. Once the Ross males came in, he was super submissive. He kind of lay down, flattened his ears. And there's that Ross male. Look how close they are. He knows. Oh, everybody is getting up and moving again. There gets them. Oh, watch the male. Look how submissive he's being. The Ross male's coming in. Look how he's lying down. Little standoff. He's been gone for the past couple of days from the pride. And now that he's joined up again, he better be very careful. You see how he wanted to get up and follow the rest of the pride, but as he did, the Ross male kind of walked in and forced him to be submissive. You see how his head's shrunk right low, showing submission to the Ross male, saying, "You're the boss here. I'm not here to interfere with anything that you're doing. So please leave me alone." So let's just stick a moment here, see what happens. The rest of the pride have got up and left. If the Ross male gets up and follows them, that might give this young male a chance to follow as well. However, that Ross male seems like he's got the Birmingham young male right in his sights, not taking his eyes off of him. And if he decides to move, the Ross male might do something. Watching very closely and very carefully. Oh, Birmingham male's up. Walking. And so is the Ross male right on his tail. Oh, look at that. Turn around saying, that growling, Ham. He's going to follow him. Make sure that he's not interfering. Oh. Interesting little standoff. You see, they're going to try and both of them are going to try and avoid a conflict. That Birmingham young male really doesn't want one. However, he is getting incredibly big. He's still being fed by mom, which allows him to be growing incredibly quickly. He's at an age where he should really be on his own. He should have left this pride a couple of years ago. But because he hasn't, he's been getting extra food and he's been getting big, and that Ross male knows that. Okay, I'm going to try and loop around here quickly. Let's see if we can maybe catch up to them. They're not far away from another road, which makes our job a little bit easier in terms of looping around. So just hang with us for a moment. Let's see where they're going. Still nice and cool. It is going to be warming up very quickly. just up ahead of us is that Birmingham young male. He's watching that Ross male very carefully. And that Ross male is not letting him get more than 4 or 5 meters ahead of him without intimidating him into submission. There they go. Okay, so I'm going to stick with these guys a little bit longer.
Jumbo everyone, another wonderful morning, and I have some beautiful grey-crested cranes. This is a bird that we have been seeing quite a lot, and they've been doing so well with their chicks. They love the roads. Very busy either picking some rocks or some stuff. A very good morning. My name is Isaac, and on camera we have Bungay. Our mission is to look for lions here around the marsh, and maybe some elephants and any other thing that comes our way. And it is so beautiful. The sun is just warming up, lots of dew, and I think that's why the grey-crested cranes want to be on the road, and they're crossing the road. This is a bird that can be very vocal when it wants to, but mostly it is very silent. Their chicks, looks like mommy was feeding the little chick, or daddy, could be one of them. They feed on little insects, plants, little, vertebrates, and reptiles. Here they are feeding on seeds. And these two could be around 2 months, 2.5, because they're fully fledged at around 3 months. They lay 2 to 5 eggs that are almost very dirty brown in a nice nest that is constructed of twigs, reeds, and grass, in a swamp, and takes about 30 days or almost a month for the incubation of the eggs. Remember I told you about their eggs. They are precocial, which means when they hatch, they are on their feet as soon as possible, because they need to be up and moving, otherwise they'll get eaten by small reptiles like monitor lizard, snakes. So they have to be moving, and these guys will live very long, up to around 22 years. You might wonder how they pair for life and how they find each other. They have a big ceremony. I don't know who arranges it, but it's like the breeding season is almost at the same time right now. And so after a few weeks, we will find up to 300 together in one area very close to a swamp. Usually it's very colorful. There's lots of dancing and calling. And when the ceremony is over, everybody flies out in couples. They spend a lot of their time on the ground, are doing what they're doing right now, feeding. Looks like they want to elude me, so I'm gonna drive slightly closer to them. Oh, did you see how they flew up? So most of their food is found on the ground, so they spend a lot of their time on the ground, like what they're doing right now. And looks like it's a small, happy family. We have seen, these guys for the last about 2 months, and it's going to be interesting if we're going to attend that wedding, if we find out where they are. All right, I'm gonna move on. Let's see what another safari vehicle is doing.
Nothing has happened that much, but seems like she's just changed position from the right side of the road to the left side of the road. But the young lion is still following this and stirring this little cub. So mom is doing a busy job watching over. I saw as she tried to maybe to lift her, but seems like mom is afraid to do that, because once she does that, that lion can come and attack. So look at her, she's watching over that little cub, feeling like a little bit of sleepiness in herself. The little cub is so much relaxed, unaware or oblivious of the danger that is looming around her. He knows that if he gets too close, then he will be in danger. So he has to keep his distance, only waiting for perfect time to sneak in. But I'm sure that lioness is so much experienced, so mature, such that she knows what can happen right now. You find that most of the time when lionesses get to their first litter, they almost lose the entire litter, because they're not experienced in raising the cubs. They've never witnessed such a thing. So you find that in lions, the first litter, sometimes they always die, or maybe one of them survives. A litter might consist of about 3 little cubs, but sometimes we see one. I remember there's a time when I saw 4 little cubs, and that was about 2 years ago. So it's always nice when you come across little cubs and see their mothers raising them to winning and, of course, to independence. Hey mom, I want some milk. Mom is not relaxed, so she can't really nurse her at the moment because of that young male that is around here. But I'm sure if he gets to a den, mom will be more than comfortable to nurse her. He's walking to the road. Look at those tiny legs. Don't go there. So mom is following closely. Hey, come back. Come back. Small cubs can be adventurous, and that sometimes can be a little dangerous for them. That's why I see mom has headed there to protect her from heading to where that other lion is. The problem is mom wants to move this little cub to a safe place, but okay, what's going to happen? So that male has shown submission. See, when the mother approaches him, he lays down on the ground. That is showing submission. And if not, that can be fatal. Mom has to attack him. So Mom has to stay guard until he leaves this area. But not quite sure if he's going to leave yet. So I'm still going to wait here and watch what's going to unfold. But I hope Mom is going to take her to a very secure den. Still orange. Why does the mama sense that, or the cub sense that the mother is upset? See, at this age, that little cub is still innocent. It's not even aware of what's going on. The only thing that that cub wants to do is to be adventurous. You saw from when she was lying on the road, she tried to cross over to the other side, oblivious of the danger. So the only thing that this cub knows is to drink milk to get full. So she's not yet picked, he or she has not yet picked that instinct of there's danger looming around or where the mother is upset. As long as that young male is there, Mom is not going to move, because as soon as she moves or to swap a den, he's going to follow. So Mom does not want to show him at all where he's going to take that little cub. So sometimes it can even take the entire day for them being here on the road. Jenny, thank you so much for your question. Does this lioness has a pride member near here? Not that I've seen them, but they're not far within this radius. The last time I saw them was with Isaac when he was watching that big male with these other lionesses trying to get closer. But then I can say they're about a kilometer or two away from here. And most of the time you find that when lionesses have cubs at that age, they isolate themselves from the rest of the pride, where they'll keep their cubs hidden until they introduce them to the rest of the pride. But in this scenario, it seems like mother was trying to swap den. And in that occasion, he happened to come across this big male, that Ololashe, and that youngster over there. So it became a little bit of a controversy where she was trying to guard and protect the cub while those lions were trying to approach the cub. So that's the reason why we've seen this little cub for about 2-3 days. But I'm sure if these lions leave, mother will again go and hide them. So we find that in every about 2 to 3 weeks, lionesses will swap den, because sometimes these cubs, or where that cub den is, there's always a scent. And if that scent prevails there for too long, then it can inhabit predators, hyenas, and even other lions like that young male who can come and attack the cubs. So they have to keep on swapping the den. For those ones who are joining us now, we just have a tiny cub here. Isaac named him Bahati. The reason why he was named Bahati is because he fell on a canyon and was lucky to have survived and lucky to have gone out of that canyon. So Bahati is Swahili name for lucky one. So I'm going to still hang around here as I take you over to another live location.
Welcome back, everybody. It seems like the Birmingham Pride seem to settle down. They've been up and down this morning, up and down, in the search of food. And it actually seems like there might be 1 or 2 members missing. It's been tricky to count exactly all of them, but there's at least 15 lions here this morning. The 2 little cubs that have joined up, they've done an incredibly good job keeping up. They've been going through some incredibly long grass, and you'll see them disappear in that grass very, very quickly. And they came out wet from all the dew this morning. Both Ross males are here, the Birmingham young males here as well. And it was interesting to see that little tussle between the Ross male and the Birmingham young male. Can't see him at the moment, but they're all sticking together for now. I think with those lions that we heard calling in the west last night, there's this element of strength in numbers that they're going to try and keep. They do need to eat though. They haven't eaten in a few days. That's why the females, I think particularly the older lead females, have been making such a concerted effort to move through these thicker areas. The game density is also quite high in here, and you'll see them bypass a few animals. A few impalas have been alarm calling at them every now and then. But an impala is not going to go a long way, particularly with these males here. You'll see if the females do catch an impala, they'll very likely come in and take it straight away. They've picked a spot. It's not over shady here. So that suggests to me that they may be up and moving again. Not so much time. They're all lying straight down. It's amazing. You'll see those older females. They'll get up and they'll initiate the movement. It's a bit tricky with both the Ross males and that Birmingham young male here. They'll have to take something very big down for everybody to get a meal this morning. That's why that buffalo that they were chasing this morning would have been perfect. Unfortunately, they didn't get quite so lucky. Look at that little one. I mean, that white lioness is busy licking and cleaning. Probably, it's herself actually, not the other one. But you see how exhausted that little one is? The head is right down. They've been playing lots of catch-up this morning. Mom has been super involved in the hunting as well. So she's been hanging around with the older lionesses. And her little cubs have been right at the back. It's almost like they've been hanging around with the Ross males. The Ross males have been taking good care of them, or ensuring that nothing else swoops up behind them. Oh, up she gets. Wonder who she's going to go. It was quite interesting to see her greeting the Birmingham young male who hasn't been here for some time. How she glows in the light. It's quite amazing, isn't it? Algebra girl, are the white lions albinos? It's a fair question. The answer is in fact no. They are not albino. They are actually, it's a recessive gene, which the Birmingham Pride, I mean, you can see most of them are tawny coloured or normal coloured lions, whereas there are 2 white lions that are moving around. And that means that the Birmingham Pride has got the gene, the recessive gene, somewhere along the genetic line, and the Ross males have also got the genetic recessive gene in their genetic line. And when those 2 recessive genes join up, they will produce a white lion. So it is not albinism, it is in fact a recessive gene. Humans have blue eyes and brown eyes to try and make this a little bit easier for you, with blue eyes being a recessive gene. So if 2 people with blue eyes have a child, they're very likely going to have a blue-eyed child. But if you have a brown-eyed person and a blue-eyed person having a child, it will very likely be a brown eye, because the brown eye is dominant over the blue eye, if that makes any sense to you. It's a genetic discussion that we can go into some serious detail about, but it can be quite complicated. I mean, that white gene, though, the reason that there's not more wild white lions in the world is because it's, in fact, not an advantage to them. And over thousands and thousands of years, this white gene has pretty much been wiped out because of the disadvantage that it provides. It makes it slightly more difficult for them to hunt at night, although some would argue that it can act as like a distraction. But a normal lion can also act as a distraction. They'll glow almost in the evenings, and particularly when they're cubs, it is a disadvantage. When they are cubs, they are super vulnerable to predation, particularly when mom is away hunting. She'll leave them in a thicker area, maybe, well, in this case it was the riverbed, where the density of trees and bushes is very thick, well hidden in there. But when they're very small, anything from a bird to a snake to a hyena to another lion can take them out. And when they are white, they stand out quite a lot more than their siblings, putting them at that disadvantage. I mean, have a look at those black ears of that. Looks like a young lioness that we can see there. It's just lay right in between those trees. Oh, can you see that wound on the back of her head? I saw this for the first time the other day, and I was having a discussion. We were wondering what that could be, if it was an abscess maybe, or maybe a bite wound from one of the Ross males, particularly around a carcass. Although this pride is incredibly closely connected and their social bonds are really, really good, when it comes to food, the biggest and the strongest will eat first and eat what they want. And if one of these younger ones kind of push their way into an area that one of the big males are not enjoying or that they prefer, they will aggressively push them away with a big slap with one of those big front paws, or potentially even a bite. So I wonder if one of those male's canines didn't go into its head, creating that big wound. It seems that it's doing all right. I mean, I didn't watch it happen, but with that, one of this one's sisters, I think it was a sister, around a carcass, one of those Ross males actually unintentionally ended up killing one of the cubs that got a little bit too close. Licking up all the dew off that grass. The grass is incredibly wet this morning. It was actually felt like a little bit of rain last night as well. And that's why those little cubs, particularly when they were trying to keep up with the rest of the pride, came out completely drenched from head to toe, and they were quite unhappy about it. Taking all the moisture off of that grass. You will see them sometimes eating the grass as well to upset their stomach and almost encourage them to vomit and get whatever is upsetting their stomach out. But I don't think this is the case. It doesn't look like this one's eaten in a couple of days. It is starting to warm up already. I wonder if they won't get up and move around again. So I'm going to try and do another loop around here, try and count how many members are here particularly. But if they continue to stay down like this, I think I may continue, maybe try and follow up on those impalas that were alarm calling earlier.
Well, from lions to, elephants. And here I am at the border of the marsh. Remember, we're coming live from the Masai Mara. Talk to us, #WildEarth. And I've come across this beautiful herd of elephant that has just come out of that thicket over there, or forest. It's a mixture of different types of trees that we get there. The dominant one is Olea africana, or the African olive. We have the Diospyros abyssinica, or giant forest mahogany, and then the shrubbery ones, the short ones. Those ones are orange-leafed croton, a very common shrub here in the Masai Mara, and all three are eaten by elephants, but they have come out of the bush. Maybe they've had enough of the trees and it's time to graze. And they're out there enjoying the morning grass. It's just warming up, so the sun must be so nice on their backs after being out there the whole night. So it's about time that they enjoy the sun. Victor, is it true that elephants are drama queens? I don't know what you mean with that. Well, if provoked, they can cause a drama. But being a drama queen, that phrase I would actually, I don't know how it would apply with elephants, but they are very gentle elephants, and if provoked, well, of course, you can get real drama. You don't want to provoke an elephant. So, Victor, I don't know how really to put it, that they are drama queens. Young ones tend to show off, tend to want attention, and also want to tell you who is boss if you come too close to them. And especially when there are females and males around, they'll flap their ears, run towards you, stop all of a sudden, kick some dust, do all things that elephants do, but just causing drama unnecessarily without anything. No, never seen that. This is an animal that you should avoid to provoke by all means, and this is through experience. They might look big, they might not see very well, they only see about 20 to 30 meters, but their sense of hearing is very good, and they carry an anger that you cannot compare to any. Once they are angry, it can be messy, my friend. Yes, and they live the longest of all, large mammals here. Of course, the crocodiles, the tortoise, they live very long, but these guys also live quite a long time. Well, my director just told me that all you guys are inquiring about Jasiri. Well, Jasiri, I saw him yesterday evening. His swelling is not, it has subsided drastically. He's walking much faster. He's doing much better. And in the coming weeks, maybe we will be able to air him for you so you can witness. But, the bottom leg looks a little bit still swollen, but, he's walking better. So he is doing really well. I saw him yesterday around 5:30 in the evening. So don't you worry, Jasiri is all good. And looks like most of the young ones there are his age. Usually they're quite safe when they're about 2 years old. Lions in the Mara are not known for going to for elephants, so he is very, very safe. The grass there must be very delicious, because you can tell those guys are really, really serious. Well, looking at them, looks like they're walking much faster. Chris Jumbo, how far can elephants travel? It differs from one area to the other. Here, they don't need to go very far unless they need to, but here it's very short distances of maybe 5 kilometers every day, compared to other areas like the Kalahari, where the water in Namibia and in Chad, in West Africa, a few countries where the water is very far. Elephants have been known to travel up to 200 kilometers in a night. So they can travel depending on the needs. What really makes them, travel long distances is water. But areas with water, they don't travel as far. They can go 5 to 10. So it differs from one area to the other. There is no specific answer. You can only be answered by the area or the region. Like here, I can tell you they travel only about 5 kilometers in a day. There is abundance. There is enough to feed on. So no need to travel. Right now, it is like a pattern these elephants here have developed where late evening they leave the swamp. Reasons are not very clear because they leave it. I think it's because there is much to eat out there in the trees, in the bushes, and in the plains at night, and it's cooler. So they leave and spend the whole night out there, and then early morning, some of them will come to the swamp. The grass is much softer. Of course, there's different kind of shrubs and creepers, and they love it there. Some of them will eventually go into the trees, the forest, and then in the evening they leave again. That is the pattern that happens here. Of course, they do cross the Mara River, go to the Greater Mara, head towards east, others north, but we always have elephants and they don't travel very much. Those guys are quite a distance. I was hoping they're gonna walk towards me, but I'm not worried. They will, we'll find some elephants that, come closer towards me. Here, elephants haven't been hunted for a very, very long time, so they are not worried about humans. You just have to be careful every now and then, about, just have to be careful, with those big bulls in must or females with really, really young ones. Yes, let's take you to another, live location.
Female animals with the babies can be dangerous, and that is the reason why we're here watching this lioness as she's protecting her tiny cub. Now the cub moved closer to the young male lion here, but then mom stepped in. So we've not got too close to see what's happening there, but it seemed like she's still keeping him at the bay. Now the other thing is, recently we saw that young lion mating with some of the Ololo females, but she's the sister to the ones that were mating. Not quite sure if he's going to be a protector of the cubs or not, but mom is not quite sure. But it seems like they've got a little bit closer, and I'm not sure whether I'm worried or not, but there's nothing happening at the moment because that lioness is not growling, she's not aggressive, she's just lying there next to him, and the tiny cub is just next to the mother. So whatever is going to happen next, I'm not so sure. So I'm still waiting to see what's going to happen. A little while ago, I had some lions roar. Could be that was a contact call. They're trying to locate the other rest of the pride, but she did not respond to that. Oh, what scooped her? Or maybe she had those lions roar. The only distance us humans can hear lions roar is about 7.5 to 8 kilometers away. But lions can hear even farther from that, about 12 or 13 kilometers away. So if those lions are farther away, she could hear that. Because he's showed submission, he's being peaceful. That is why it's a little bit quiet here. And Mom is reluctant at the moment. But not quite sure whether this is going to take on for a little while. Because as soon as he raises his head, Mom keeps on growling at him. Okay, right now I can see him raising his head. He's yawning. Yes, I can hear her growling. I'm still going to wait here because I want to really know what's going to happen when this cub either is going to be taken to a new den or this male is going to walk away as I take you over to another live location.
Welcome back to andBeyond Phinda, and on our quest for cheetah this morning we've come across these two rhinos, a mother and her small calf, white rhinoceros, and they're over on the other side of the hill. Just heard our vehicle and she's taking her calf a little bit away from us. I think while that calf is still young, she's very, very protective and wary of anything. And maybe the noise of our vehicle scared her a little bit. But look at that calf. Do you see his little horn in the front? His mother's got two horns, but he's just got one. He hasn't even started growing his second horn yet. And that tells us that he's at least less than a year old. They only start to get their second horn at a year. So he was being born within the last 12 months. I'd reckon he's about 8 months old. He or she, I'm actually not sure the gender of that young calf. But he'll be with her probably for the next 5, 6, 7 years. Rhinos spend a lot of time rearing their calves. And actually when he's ready to leave her, or when she's ready for him to leave her, she'll have to drive him away because she'll already start to have a new calf. And the older calf will find it extremely difficult to part with his mother. But there's no risk of that anytime soon. He is still very young. And it's a beautiful morning here at andBeyond Phinda. I don't know if you can hear, there's lots of bird activity, especially in this dry riverbed. Lots of trees that are fruiting and flowering at the moment after our recent rains. And you can see the grass is lush and green as well, which these white rhino are capitalizing on and grazing on. That youngster won't be grazing yet. He's still suckling from his mother, so she's going to be doing all the grazing, and he's just tagging along with her for the meantime until he starts to get weaned and starts to eat grass himself. So it's interesting, look how All right, we're going to send you off to something exciting happening at Djuma. We'll see you soon.
Just keep the hyena. Right, guys, so we've just had the most terrible thing just happen. We've just found Tswalu, and a hyena has run in and just killed her cub. I'm trying to see if I can find where the hyena went. It's carrying the cub in the mouth, and here the hyena is here on our right. It looks like it might be Corky that's killed this cub. Oh no, man. You can see it's eating the cub now. So for those of you that are sensitive, don't look, because there goes a tiny little leopard cub that has been killed, unfortunately, by hyenas. No, man. Ugh. No one had any idea that there was a cub here. It was just Tswalu walking through a drainage line, and all of a sudden this hyena ran in, and she went up the tree, and hyena grabbed the little one. I don't know if there's more cubs. I'm not sure, but that is as bad a start to our day as we could ever imagine. You can just see her behind there. I'm trying to go forward a little bit. Oh, no. Horrible. All right. Like I say, I'm hoping that there maybe is more cubs that she can at least try and protect. She tried her best to keep these hyenas at bay, but unfortunately, when it comes to a hyena of that size, she's got no real chance. Oh, no. That is absolutely terrible. The cub's finished, so I'm going to go back to Tswalu and see if we can get a view of her. Yeah. But before we do all of that, I suppose I should introduce myself. My name's Tristan. On camera, I've got Morgan, and it can't possibly be a worse thing to witness than that. It's got to be... It kind of makes you feel sick in many ways. Tswalu, shame, girl. That's a horrible thing to happen to a leopard. That's for sure. Yeah, not ideal. I'm going to try and see if I can get you a view of Tswalu. She's up a tree at the moment, just sitting and watching. Obviously, she'll be quite distraught about this whole thing. I don't know if you can get a view there, Morgan, but I don't know if there's any more cubs. I'm not sure. There she is there, but I'm afraid that little cub was too small for it to be able to climb a tree, so there's no ways that it could get away from a hyena. Oh, terrible. All right, well, we're going to see if she comes down and maybe if there's any other cubs there. But we'll send you, yeah, I don't know. I don't even have words at this stage.
Well, in the middle of the plains never disappoint. Look who is here. A lone hippo. He just came out of a very small puddle of water. I could not believe. And this is why they are so dangerous, the hippos. Because they can appear out of the blue during the night. They will be grazing. If they find water, they'll submerge themselves. And if it can cover them, they will stay there. And that's why before people really learned about them, they were causing a lot of deaths. In Africa, if you are caught in between this guy and water, it is very, very serious. When it rains and the river becomes too high, many of them are chased out of the water by the current, by the debris brought by water, logs, rocks, you name it. They want to come out, and sometimes they hide in bushes. Here, some places, people still go to relieve themselves in the bushes. They go for a bath in the river, and also they go for firewood in the forest. And while doing these activities, they might meet a hippo, and this guy might weigh 1,500 for males and around 1,800 to 2,000 kilos for females, but they can run very fast, my friend. 30 kilometers an hour and can turn very, very fast. Those short, stumpy legs can move. The eyesight, hearing, and smell is very, very good. I don't know what he's deciding on me now. He's turning. Look at that face. Maybe she's waiting for me to go, and then she's gonna come. Usually, when they're not very happy, they'll open their mouths and do like Caesar-like, open, close, open, close. That is to tell you, I'm not very impressed with you. Thank you for turning around so we can see your face. This is a grazer. That mouth is equipped with a very hard pad at the bottom to pluck a lot of grass. Sometimes you find lone ones like this with wounds because they've been fighting for dominance in the water or in the river, and so they can't stay in the river because fishes and small crocs accelerate, the wound, making it worse. So they come out, in the open. But this guy looks quite clean, so it could be that he just found a pod. He decided to stay here, but he's got a place where he's gonna go to, definitely. Yeah, hippos can feed up to 40-50 kilograms of grass in a night. They're not ruminants, so they're hindgut fermenters, so they'll feed, and it takes a few days for all the food to go through their body. These guys can live up to 40 to 50 years, depending on the conditions. And you can see that nobly kind pimple on the below the eye towards the nose. Those are canines. It's got 4 canines that are always rubbing against each other. That's sharpening them, and those are very, very dangerous. They have an 150-degree gap, and so anything can go through their mouth. Most animals, they have been known to chomp, crocodiles in two. Never seen that, but I have seen a crocodile killed by hippo because those canines go through the crocodile skin like a pin. They just break through. I don't know what she's doing up here. Looks like she wants to come back, so the best thing for me is to leave, and while I do that, we'll take you to another live location.
Well, we wish that the hyenas would leave Tswalu alone, but they're not. They're still hanging around. They're right at the base of where she is, and I can hear another cub calling in here. So there's still one that is, at least one that is alive. What I think has happened is, as she came towards the den, hyena came rushing in as well, and I think the cubs got confused and didn't realize that it wasn't mom, and one walked out straight into that hyena's mouth, basically. Which is the most sad thing that, like I say, for me personally, is the worst possible thing to have. You know these things happen, and it's nature for little animals to be killed, and it's the reality of how hard it is for a mother leopard to raise their cubs, but it's something you wish that you never see. And so, yeah, it's kind of depressing for me in many respects. I'm sure a lot of you at home will be feeling the same. But there is still one, and I think maybe that one will have got a shock enough to just back into it. There's a hole underneath this tree that she's lying in, that's knotted with roots, and hopefully that little one got enough of a fright just to stay inside the hole and wait for this hyena to lose interest. You can see Tswalu, even though she's lost a cub, she can't get frenetic and panicky right now. She's got to just sit and wait and make sure that she in some way deals with the hyena first, and then once that hyena is long gone, then you'll find that she'll take this cub and she's going to move it. And it's such a shame, because what she was doing is she was walking towards these cubs, and she looked like she was basically it would have been that she might have crossed with them onto Vuyatela. She's right on the boundary of Simambili and Djuma. And I was saying yesterday that I was thinking that if she hadn't moved her cubs, she was going to, due to the fact that she had all that other leopard pressure up near Simambili Dam. And I'm so sorry, my girl. What a horrible, horrible, horrible thing to happen. But like I say, I could still hear a cub calling, and so I'm wondering if maybe, just maybe, it's there. I think she's going to go to where this hyena ate the cub to try and see if she can find it quickly. Shame, my girl. It really, really, really is, like I say, one of the worst things one could ever see. And that cub had no chance. Obviously, it's as soon as the hyena grabs it, that's the end of that. All right, we're going to follow her, see what she gets up to. If she comes back to this area, we're going to leave her because we don't want to disturb the den too much.
Terribly sad news out of Djuma there. I really hope that gives that one cub that's left a better chance at surviving. So I've done a little loop around here at the Birmingham Pride, and as you can see, they are all fast asleep. And that's with the day heating up. There's a Ross male there that you can see. You see how he quickly popped his head up there? Now what he's doing is there's an interesting little standoff going here. He keeps popping his head up to have a look and see what's going on. But if we zoom out a little bit, there is the young Birmingham male who's also sleeping over here. But you see how there's quite a big distance between him and the Pride. Now the Ross male keeps popping his head up to make sure that this male's not sneaking any closer. We had an interesting interaction between the two of them this morning. I mean, the Birmingham male has been away for quite some time, and he's now joined back up with the Pride, and the Ross males don't like it when that happens. He's a threat to their dominance, although he is the son of one of the lionesses. And when he does come in here, if he doesn't be submissive towards the males, they will often try and fight with him and injure him and potentially even kill him. Although he's been doing this since the Ross males got here almost 3 years ago, he's been submissive and dealing with these fights and altercations on a regular basis. So this was no new story for him this morning, but still, it's always interesting. I mean, the Ross males at one point had injured him so badly he could not move for about a week. Didn't eat or drink, and we all thought he was going to die. But lions are incredibly good at recovering from injuries. Sometimes you think they are goners, and they will just somehow appear one day, or you think they've disappeared and died, and then a couple of weeks later or a few months later they reappear. How? I'm not 100% sure, but it is amazing. I mean, the day has heated up incredibly so, and these lions are they found quite a nice shady spot. There's lots of shade around as well, water not too far by, or not too far away rather. And you'll see if any animals come to drink, they'll very likely walk past here. Why are lions not solitary like other cats, Victor? I think one of the reasons for that is they are big and strong, and one of the benefits of living in a group like this is you have the benefit of having lots of numbers to bring down bigger prey. And it is strange, they're pretty much the only social and gregarious cat around. And one of the benefits, an evolutionary advantage that they've developed over thousands and thousands of years, is using this teamwork to bring down bigger prey. So that's why they have these groups, and also so they can have larger territories and that they can be dominant over those territories. Having lots of members makes it much easier to do so. But it's interesting. I'm sure this standoff is going to continue like this for the rest of the day. Even though they're fast asleep, that Ross male is going to keep a real good eye out on that Birmingham young male to make sure that he's not getting too close. But that Birmingham male better be careful. If he falls asleep and doesn't realize that one of those Ross males, who are both here, gets too close to him, he may find himself in a bit of trouble. It's interesting, I mean, I did do a little loop around and try to count all the members. It's a bit tricky as they're lying all over the place. However, I counted at least 14 of them here this morning, which is a lot of mouths to feed. An impala or even a kudu won't suffice to feed them all. Fast asleep, breathing quite slowly as well, trying to conserve as much energy as they can. I'm sure the few that are lying in the sun will be moving to the shade shortly. I mean, I didn't see with those lions roaring in the west. I haven't been much further west from here this morning. I wonder what their decision was when they heard this whole pride roaring last night, if they decided to keep going a bit further west. So what I'm going to do now is, it is warming up quite significantly and these lions don't look like they're going anywhere. What I'm going to do is I'm going to leave this area. I'm going to try and see if we can follow up on something else. In the meantime, I'll send you to somebody else.
From the Birmingham Pride back to our Olololo lioness with the little tiny cub Bahati, and it seems like they've got too close to that young male there, and it seems like he is quite happy. He doesn't want to do anything at all, because I'm suspecting if he was really wanting to kill this cub, there's an open opportunity for him to do that. But it seems like mom now is relaxed, but still watching that little cub is going to get too close to him. That tiny cub is so curious. He wants to get closer to him. I'm not sure if he's admiring that mane or not. But mom is like, no, don't get too close. See? Mom, can I please go there? But him facing the other direction is an indication that he's being polite. That's why the mother is also relaxed. Normally, if a lion would want to kill a cub, then there's an open opportunity for that at the moment. So I would say this is a bit friendly, but you never know if he might change his mind. The instinct to kill that cub might pick in, but it seems like at the moment it's friendly. That cub is so curious watching the tail. Ruth, fearless cub, and fearless, curious, and innocent. There he goes. Okay, mom is growling right now. The cub is actually watching the tail, and he wants to be part of this playing tool. That is a typical behavior lionesses will do with their tiny cubs as they're growing. They keep on playing. Okay, mom is not happy. Don't get too close to my cub. The cub is calling. Mom does not trust him at all. Next time you get too close, you're going to pay for our pliers. So I think right now they're back to sleep, and this is what will be happening for as long as that cub tries to get closer to that lion. So I'm going to leave them here, and maybe I'll try to find something else, or later on I'll come and find what's going on. So right now it's don't get too close to my cab or else I'll fight you off. So I'm going to take you over to another live location.
Welcome back, everyone. We found another group of rhino, a small crash of 4 rhinos, and it looks like, I don't know if you can see well on the screen, there's just a small tiny calf, another different calf than the one that you just saw, and its mother, and there's a young bull standing close to it, and off to the
One safe, you know.
there's another.
So like
looks
she gets
like
over it quite fast. But
bull.
if it was just one,
Can't see well.
then she's
But
very quickly
quite
that
interesting to
she
see rhinos
starts
spending
to
time
kind
together
of,
like this. It's
you
not
know,
very often that you see it.
That's the word for it. It's
Normally,
like she gets a bit
The
obsessive.
female and her calf would be all on
They
their
just
own,
all they do is just
and
try
the
and
other
find that cub
rhinos,
for, like,
bulls, would be
the one time we had a
walking
female.
around doing their thing on their own as well. But rhinos do sometimes come into contact with each other, and they're not against spending some time with each other. Oh, look at this. This mother's thought that the young bull was getting a bit too close to her calf, and she's decided to take her calf a little bit off. They're walking straight towards us now. Yeah, so they do spend some time together every now and again, but it's normally 1 or 2 days that they temporarily kind of congregate, and then they go off on their different paths again. And look at this small little calf. How cute is he? You see how his little ears are pointed, one ear is pointed directly at us all the time because we are making a bit of noise, and he probably doesn't see us very well. They're about 50 meters away, but his eyesight's not good at all, so they rely a lot on that sense of hearing and sense of smell. And it is a bit windy, so that sense of hearing and smell for them might be a little bit dulled now, which is possibly why they've decided to maybe move away. They look a little bit not as relaxed as they were when we got here before. See, she's listening to us. She's missing half of her ear as well. Look at that. Maybe they're going to try and find a more sheltered place to spend some time now because of the wind. That'll help a lot for them to be able to hear and smell better. Look, very interestingly, this rhino mother is being followed by these 2 males, and I think one of them is a very young male, so he probably has just left his mom. And remember what I told you earlier about how rhinos struggle to leave their parents, or their mother actually. They'll actually go and adopt another mother as a surrogate mother. It's called, we know it as satelliting. So a young calf that's been pushed away from his mom will adopt another mother and her calf, an orphan. And I think this is the young bull. Oh, look at that, look at that, look at that. That young bull has been chased away by the older bull. So he just wants to go back to his adopted mother, and the older bull, who's actually trying to hang around her for the possibility of mating, which is very unlikely because she has a calf. The older bull's chasing the young bull away, saying, no, there's no space for you here, please get lost. It's a very interesting dynamic going on here, and I wonder how this mother feels about it all. That young orphan male is still hanging on the outskirts of this group, but I don't think that the big bull is going to let him any closer than this. Wow. That calf looks a little bit scared. I think he doesn't quite know what's going on around him. He's hidden behind his mother from that big bull. Ulster's asked how old this young calf is, and judging by the lack of his second horn, like we were speaking about earlier with the previous calf, he's only got the one horn and no growth in his second horn yet, so he's, I think, definitely younger than 1 year old. But I'd say probably about 11, 12 months, closer to 1 than younger. He comes just up to, so he's just taller than his mother's belly. So Alyssa has asked, why do rhinos need a secondary horn? And that's a good question. Rhinos actually, their horn is mostly used for when males compare their size against other males. They don't actually use their horn for a whole lot. It's mostly a display kind of, it's a kind of a display. So we have dehorned our rhinos here at Phinda because we feel that dehorning them will not affect their life at all, because they actually don't use it for much. Their secondary horn is probably used for even less. They can't scratch themselves with it. They don't use it to defend themselves from predators because they don't really have any natural predators. Males can use it to spar with other males. That is the one thing that they could use it for. But with white rhinos, oh, look at her chasing the orphan calf away now. She's now had enough. Males can use their horn to fight with other males, but it is so rare that male or bull white rhinos fight with each other that it's almost negligible how important that horn is to them. It's mostly used to size each other up, compare size, but I mean their body size is more of an indicator of their size than their horn, because some rhinos have longer horns, some rhinos have shorter horns, some of them snap off. So yeah, not much of a use for that second horn or the first horn. This little rhino is, yeah, he must be very, very confused as to what's going on. And look at him now. Look at, he's got a little bit of mud on his face. I think at some stage this morning, or maybe yesterday, because it hasn't got too hot this morning yet, he would have taken a little mud bath, or maybe a wallow in some mud to cool himself off. And now you can, the mother's chasing that orphan calf further and further away. So it's quite sad that little orphan's own mother has chased it away from her, because she's probably had another calf, and now this mother is chasing it away from her too. For all we know, this could be her old calf, but I think it's very unlikely. I think the new calf is almost 1. There's very little chance that her old calf would still be hanging around after her having a calf for a year. So I don't think this little group is going to be spending too much time together for much longer. So James has asked, do black rhinos ever have satellite calves? And James, I've never heard of that happening. With black rhinos, the social structure is completely different. You'd think that them both being rhinos, that they'd kind of have quite a few similarities. And they do, but they also have massive differences in the way they behave and the way they are socially and what they eat. And in terms of satellite calves, black rhinos are very, very much less tolerant of other rhinos around their calves. They are extremely solitary. I've seen a few black rhinos together once before, but it was very, very unusual to see. So no, I think it's much more common in white rhinos than black rhinos. It's amazing to see, as soon as this mother moves, these males are on her tail. They don't want to leave her alone. And I think she's just quite keen to get away from them, but the one male is just so keen on mating with her, and the youngster is just so desperately wanting a mother. Still finds it very, very daunting to go out on the world by himself. Listen to the little one squealing. I don't know if you heard, but that little rhino calf actually let out a very high-pitched squeal, and that's a noise that rhinos make when they're quite distressed. Even adult rhinos, they're like a whistle, kind of a squeal. And I think now that rhino, that young calf, is starting to get very, very stressed about this situation. I wonder why that big male is trying to mate with her, because he can smell in her urine when he tests her urine with his nose what the hormone levels are in her urine, whether she's in estrus, whether she wants to mate. And she definitely wouldn't be in estrus yet, because she still has a young calf that's probably suckling from her still, and those hormones for indicating that she's receptive to mating wouldn't be present. So he should actually not be detecting any kind of signals in or any behavior in her that would suggest that she's keen to mate. So I don't know why he's hanging around. Usually when bulls find a female that's not keen, they won't waste their time too much. They'll rather carry on and try and find a female that is keen to mate. And this wind is just picking up ever so slightly, so added to the stress of being chased by two scary bulls, this young white rhino is probably not able to hear anything very well at the moment. Okay, she's going to make another break for it. Oh my goodness. She at least seems more tolerant of the orphan calf than the big male. I think she probably sees that orphan calf as much less of a threat as the big male. But still wouldn't want to be too close to that baby. Look at all the flies on her back, covered in flies. And that's also a reason why these rhinos may have been rolling in mud, is to cover the whole body in mud, in a cake of dried mud that prevents flies and ticks and other parasites from landing on them. You can see those scrape marks almost quite clearly on her side of where she may have brushed that mud off against a tree. I've got another question, and it's a very good question. How often will the same rhino be dehorned? And so the answer, I'll go back to what the horn actually is and why we dehorn them. The horn is just a growth, just made of keratin, a bony growth coming from the nose of rhinos, and it's exactly the same substance that your fingernail is made of. So to dehorn rhinos, first of all, is completely harmless to them in terms of pain, and as we discussed earlier, it doesn't affect their lives too much at all. But being the same substance as your fingernail, it also grows it grows back when you trim it, like a fingernail does, and it grows back quite quickly. So we usually dehorn a rhino every year, because a complete horn will grow back in 2.5 years. And you can see this calf's mother has got quite a bit of growth there, and that she probably hasn't been dehorned since the calf has been born, because they wouldn't want to dart her and tranquilize her and put her to sleep and operate on her while she has a young calf. So eventually, when the calf is old enough and starts to grow a horn of its own, they'll probably be dehorned together. And here at Phinda, we started dehorning our rhinos about 4 years ago, and it was quite a big decision to take, because it's an iconic species, and it's an iconic reason why we love rhinos, for their horns, and it's almost sad for them to be seen without horns. But at the end of the day, the reason why we dehorn them is to save them from poachers. And if these rhinos had horns, they would be under a much more massive risk of being poached. So I think that's a much better reason. It's way better for them to be alive, rather than for us sentimentally to be able to see them with a horn. And for now, this is the... Oh, look at that. You hear them snorting at each other and grunting. I don't know if you heard that. There's a lot of vocalization going on at the moment. Rhino vocalization. The older one is snorting at the younger bull as he chased him away. Oh, look what the older bull is doing now. Have a look. Did you see where that mother just urinated? He's smelling and testing her urine right now. You see how he's lifting up his lip like that? That is actually called a phlegm and grimace, what he's doing, how he lifts up his lip. And rhinos have a special organ in the top of their palate called a Jacobson's organ, which they use to test urine and other pheromones. And it's a different sense. It's a mixture between smelling and tasting, what he's doing now, and it's very acute. He can smell the different pheromones in that urine and the hormones as he lifts his lip to expose that organ to the urine. And so now he would be able to tell exactly whether this female is an estrus, whether she's not. And it was amazing to see that, actually, and see her urinate and him going straight there to sample it. These rhinos they've gone off and over the hill. She, I think, is taking her calf away to somewhere that's maybe a little bit less stressful. So we're going to send you off to somewhere else. We're going to keep looking for cheetah here on the open plains of Phinda.
Welcome back to the Mara, and Bahati's mother has done a good job keeping that male away from the tiny cub. So not quite sure what will happen later, but I'm still crossing my fingers for nothing to harm this little cub. I will not wish the cub to die, but it seems like Mom is doing a very nice job. So like I tell you a little while earlier, this cub is going to be here as long as that male is going to be here as well. So Mom will not leave this place, because as soon as he tries to live with the cub, he keeps on wanting to follow. So from the last time that Mom growled and tried to attack him, peace has prevailed and they've kept a distance. I wanted to move on, but I was a little bit holed up, wanted to know what will happen later, but it seems like nothing is happening at the moment. So still not quite sure whether she'll swap den or maybe take her back to the old den, because the old den is not far from where we are. I can feel the temperatures rising now. It's starting to warm up. So I'm sure this will not happen soon. So I'm going to carry on to another place to find something else. Okay, what are you thinking, Mom? Yeah, she can feel the temperatures rising. So I don't know whether she wants to be on the move. I'm going to hold on for a little while. Or maybe she picked some sound from somewhere. That's why she was scanning and listening. You can see how her ears were flapping. She's gone back to rest, so I'm going to carry on. I wish her all the best. And now as we head off to find something else. Denise, thank you for your question. The reason why she got too close to the male lion is because she's trying to protect the cub. So as soon as the male kept trying to get closer and the cub also wanting to get too playful with the male's tail, the mother has to move close to protect the cub. So it's not that she wanted to get closer to the male. She's actually trying to avoid that male, but he keeps on following them, and that's the reason they're too close to each other. Thank you again for your question. I think where she wants to take the cub is a place where it's secure, away from intruders like that male there. So mostly what happens, lionesses will choose somewhere close to the river, or maybe a big crevice where the cub can fit in. So sometimes these lionesses can leave their cubs for up to 24 hours without returning back to the den. And she has to make sure it's a place where it's secure, that even if such male lion can come, nothing will happen to the cub. But at the moment, she can't really take her where this lion will be able to see. She always chooses a place where it's isolated, where no other lion or be it hyenas can see her when she's taking the cub. So she has to take her to a very secure place. Not that I know, it's only herself that she can decide. She's the one who's going to decide where to take the cub. So at the moment, I'm not worried at all, because mom is so much protective of the cub. So as I drive to find something else, let me take you over to another live location.
Well, from lions to stripies, and here I have a very beautiful little dazzle of zebra. This is the Bachel's, or the common zebra. It is the only kind we find here on the southern side of the equator. We do have another one called gravy zebra, found up north. They're much larger. They live in small groups, or sometimes solitary. They have finer stripes, very, very thin, so quite different from this that I've got very thick white and black stripes. But definitely it is a stallion, could be the main stallion for these mares. There is a good number of them around this area. There is about maybe 10 mares. We'll be sharing that with you. This is an animal that is quite common in our plains here, and it's a pure grazer, always feeding on grass. they go in tow with zebra, with wildebeest, impala, topi, hartebeest, and they also participate in the annual migration. These could be the resident ones, because they're quite far away and they don't look to be in the mood to move. They're just relaxing. I'm sure they can see us, they can hear us, but they cannot smell us. The wind is not as strong. Linda, Jumbo, why do zebras have stripes? It's for many purposes. The two main ones are for defense mechanism. Most insects, most biting insects have got compound eyes, and to avoid, them biting the zebra, having the stripes, their eyes see very many lines. They don't know where to focus, so they can not bite, or they avoid biting, the zebras, and that's why you really get to find zebras that are affected that disease brought by insects like the tsetse fly, which has got the sleeping sickness. So you rarely find, zebras being bitten. The other one, I call it the visual pollution, because, for an animal that sees in black and white, to differentiate or pick out one amongst very many zebras, especially when there are like 50 in one dozzle or in one big herd, it's almost impossible. And when they cause that visual pollution, when a lion is hunting, it is evident. You will see that it chases, but when the zebras break away, it doesn't know which one to follow, because it was looking at one solid thing, and sometimes it's very difficult to pick out one. So those two are defense mechanisms. And then there is the last one, which is an evolution to help regulate its body temperature, where in cool days the black might attract more heat, so it can get warm. And in warm mornings like right now, the white is reflecting the light, so it doesn't get direct sunlight as much. So temperatures are kept perfectly. So those are the few reasons why, it's got stripes. Here we have impala, and looks like they're having a beautiful morning, no stress. Usually it's a small harem led by a male. Maybe Bungay will pick him up amongst those. Quite tough having all those ladies for yourself. You can tell there he's trying to catch up with much needed energy. It is very difficult to try and dominate, more than 30 females at a time, because constantly you are on the lookout for predators, you are on the lookout for other males, you're on the lookout so that the females don't leave you, and so you lose shape quite quickly. And that's why the longest tenure, one has stayed with the female is around 2 weeks only. Behind there, the tail waggers, you see them, they're called Thompson's gazelle. Thompson's gazelle are found in East Africa, mainly Kenya and Tanzania, and it's a small antelope, weighs up to around 14 kilos, very, very fast, and it's also cheetah's favorite food. They do migrate. It's said that, we have about 200,000 during the migration. I have seen quite a good number of them, but we always have resident ones. I think these ones have got the resident or permanent visa, so they stay here. They never leave. You really have to identify them. Just look at the tail. The white stopped under the tail and down, and then they have that distinct black, stripe on the flank. That is how you can identify them. The Thompson's gazelle. And here looks like it's a perfect place for everybody to be resting, because everybody is facing different directions, and so they are avoiding predators by making sure they don't appear from any direction. It is common to find animals associating in this kind of association, so that survival chances increases by far. Their main senses of all these animals you see here is eyesight. Eyesight is very good sense and sight and smell. Butterfly, Jumbo. Do zebras have the strongest kick? I don't know if you are comparing them with other animals, because you said strongest kick, they have strongest kick. So by themselves, yes, they do have a very strong kick. And there has been evidence of them breaking lion jaws, them killing, leopards and lions by kicking them, even hyenas. So they have very, very, very strong kick. But if you compare it to giraffe is much stronger. They can kick, and the giraffe is stronger. So I don't know if you meant, by comparing with other animals, but if it's with them, yes. It's very strong. With giraffes, the giraffe is much stronger, because, of course, the giraffe is larger. Yeah, it looks like, they have nothing going on in their brains, like, the way they're looking at us. But it has been a long night. Staying out here in the open plains, open wilderness, hyenas, lions, leopards are roaming. It is very, very hectic. So early hours of morning like this are much needed to catch up with that. Need much needed rest, doze, and even, conserve some energy. Looking at those two zebras there, I can definitely say that it's a mother and a small foal, about a year and a half. It is said none of two zebras have got the same stripes, very much like our thumb fingerprints. And looking at them, you can tell it's quite different. That one to the right, it's got a nice necklace, comes around and then almost points down towards between the two legs. You can see the mother has got the same, but it's slightly different towards where it points. And then the second one has got a break. So definitely, there is something different there. Can hear the roaring Mara River behind me. Very loud. All right, it's time to move on, see what else we can find. Well, Janelle, yeah, they're right here. So let's look at the Thompson gazelle first, maybe Bungay. That is a Thompson gazelle way up there. You can see it's got a white backside, a black stripe on the side, and it's also small. That is a male Thompson gazelle. This is a male impala. Look at the horns, the difference. Impala horns are larger, they're slightly curved. At the back, the impala doesn't have the white. Can you see that? It's slightly larger. The color is richer. And at the back, it's got, like an M. You see that? And on the legs, on the ankles, it's got a black gland. It's called a metatarsal gland. That M on the tail or the back there, it's an M. It stands for Mobile McDonald's. Yeah, favored a lot by many, predators. So, Janelle, can you see the difference between Tommy and Impala? Please say yes. Okay, time to move on. Let's see what else we can find. All right, gotta move on, see what else we can find. This is a very different area that I came today. I haven't been here for about a week or so. I thought I would come and find out what it is. Okay, let's see what else we have somewhere else.
Welcome back, everyone. We have found ourselves another herd of buffalo. This one is just resting and standing completely motionless on top of quite a windy hill. And I think this wind is having quite an effect on the animals in this area today. Because even though there is beautiful sunshine and great conditions for feeding and moving around, a lot of the animals that we've been seeing have been standing like this, dead still, not wanting to do anything. I think it's got something to do with just being uncomfortable. The wind is actually very strong, so it's blowing dust into your eyes, it's blowing insects around, and also on top of the fact that it's uncomfortable to stand in this wind and feed in this wind, it's also, like we were talking about earlier, dulls their senses and puts them a little bit ill at ease. So I think that's why these buffalo just decided to stay stock still and wait for the wind to subside. One or two of them you can see are actually chewing, but they're not eating. They're just chewing the cud. They are ruminants, so the way their digestive system works is that they feed, they swallow their grass into one stomach, and then an hour or two later they'll regurgitate it up to chew it all over again, and then it'll go to a second stomach once they swallow it again, and to a third and a fourth. So there's actually 4 parts to a ruminant stomach, and because of this feeding or digestive method, they're actually able to extract a lot of nutrients from the food they eat. So it's a very efficient digestive system, whereas other animals that aren't ruminants and don't regurgitate and chew the cud, like elephants and rhinos, they only digest a very small portion of the food they eat. That's why if you look at buffalo dung, it comes out very fine and very, you can't see the actual physical pieces of grass in it because it's been all digested very well. But if you look at elephant or rhino dung, they only digest about 10% of it. And so in the dung, you can actually see physical pieces of grass that just hasn't been digested. But as a consequence, these buffalo have to chew the cud a second time, which is quite time consuming. Some of these buffalo, you can see oxpeckers. So there's this small birds hopping around different individuals in this herd that are actually hanging around these buffalo because they feed. There's one. They feed off ticks and parasites that are parasiting on the buffalo's skin. So they actually have modified feet that are able to cling to the sides and even the underside of a buffalo's belly while look, there's one doing it right now. He's gleaning ticks off the buffalo. That's amazing. And not only ticks, they also eat dried blood and dried skin, anything really, bugs that are sitting on the buffalo. So in a way, they help the buffalo quite a lot to get rid of those parasites. And the buffalo don't mind them being there, but also the buffalo provide them with food. So it's quite a nice mutualistic, symbiotic relationship that exists between these two. And here in Zululand, it's actually, the oxpecker is quite an amazing success story, because 20 or 30 years ago, when all of this was cattle farming, before it was returned to pristine wilderness like places like Phinda and other game reserves around, there was actually just cattle farming here. in the most part, a lot of pineapple farming as well. And the farmers used to dip their cattle in pesticides and herbicides and a chemical called DDT to kill ticks. And that worked very well to kill the ticks, and the farmers are happy, but it actually meant that there was nothing for the oxpeckers to eat. So they completely left Zululand and were extinct here. Up until the return of the wildlife here at Phinda and Umfolozi and places like Somkanda. And then as the DDT and the cattle dipping stopped, ticks returned, and oxpeckers were actually physically released back into Zululand, a small population, and now they're absolutely thriving again. And they're a very important part of the ecosystem here, which consists of a lot of large mammals with ticks. So it's amazing to see them flitting around these buffaloes like this. And we're going to stick with these buffalo for a bit and see if we can maybe see what they get up to. But we're going to send you off to another live location now.
Good morning and welcome to Tswalu Kalahari. Another beautiful morning here with the sun already starting to scorch. My name is Oba King, and behind the camera I've got Dave. Another beautiful morning here in the Kalahari. What we do have is some oryx in the background there. But very interesting, if you look further there in the distance, there is a oryx with a very deformed horns, and such deformities happen for various reasons. One of them being malnutrition, and also, again, looking at how a young animal like that could have had injury and then making deformities like that. So it is very interesting to see how those horns have actually turned back, almost having a curve all the way to the back, almost being like an oryx, a sable's horn, instead of being very straight and prominent. See, if you look at what Dave is zooming at now, that's how an ordinary oryx's horn would actually be. Very long, very thin, and very prominent, very straight than the ones we just showed you earlier on. Look at that. I mean, and that's their form of defense. If anything comes in, what they would do is they would try find a place or a tree or something like that, hide their hindquarters in that, and then what they will do is almost sit with their hindquarters down, and they will start swishing from left to right using those horns, and those are serious weapons for them. Males would use them to fight territorial fights, and also use them in fending themselves against predators. Brett, very good question there. Is this the biggest antelope we have in Tswalu? No. Actually, what we do have, we've got what we call the common antelope, which is the biggest antelope of all antelopes. And second to that would be your roan antelope, which is the second biggest antelope. So we've got the biggest, which is the eland, and then the second biggest, which is the roan. So when you look at the mass of these guys, I would probably put them towards the average than one of the biggest. The biggest would be an eland weighing up to, you're looking at bulls on record, looking at about a ton of body mass. So that's a huge antelope, where these guys And 24K menipita hivi. Welcome to the Mara. So from the little tiny cub, Bahati, I've come to this area to find a leopard. So the leopard Romy, I understand yesterday it was seen around this area. So I'm driving slowly to see any traces of a Romy, which has 2 cubs. It would be nice to see the 2 cubs. So my mission to find Romy. Let me take you over to another live location.
Well, we haven't got Shadulu, but we've got Inzutini for the first time. So from hugely sad sighting to a pretty cool one in the form of Inzutini, who's just walking through a very dense, very thick block. It's not easy to follow her at all. She's moving around all over the show at this stage, and it's a bit of a struggle because she's far, far west of Simambili, and we're just trying to kind of get her as much as we possibly can. She's a little bit up there. We go. There she is, in amongst the thickets. So this is a new leopard for all of us here on WildEarth in terms of getting her on camera. It's been a long time coming. She spends a lot of time on Simambili, but it's all in the drainage lines, which is a bit of a nightmare from a signal point of view. So it's just nice that she's kind of come out onto a sort of crest area. Interestingly enough, she's moving exactly where we had Tingana yesterday afternoon. But before we talk about her too much more, just wanted to address a little bit with Shadulu's cub and what just happened. I know a lot of people will be mortified at the fact that a hyena took that little cub. It's not the hyena's fault. It's unfortunately a part and parcel of nature. These things happen. Hyenas are just doing what hyenas do. They are animals that are, part of the predator chain, and leopards do take hyena cubs too. So, it's one of those things. It's probably the worst thing that one could ever witness. It makes your heart sink to the floor of your stomach, but it is part and parcel of what happens out here. And in terms of showing it, the reason that we do these things is to try and portray nature in its entirety. So you can't just have the good. Sometimes there's got to be parts that's got to be bad, and as much as it's difficult to watch and it's not nice to see, and what happened there was literally a second in time where it went from just her walking through the bush to absolute pandemonium. But it is how things go, and it is what happens out here. So I don't want people to think that hyenas are terrible animals and hate them and all that kind of stuff. And it's harder, I think, for us in many respects than for a lot of other people, given that we spend a lot of time with them. But it is one of those things. It's a terrible thing to witness, but it's the way nature works, unfortunately. All right, she's moving off quite far. Unfortunately, I don't want to move too much because of signal, so we're going to try and see if we can get another view of her shortly so we can actually see her face, and hopefully she'll oblige.
Beautiful morning still here at Tswalu Kalahari. Look what we've got here. It's the springbok, as some would refer to it in Latin, or in scientific name, Antidocus marsupial. And one would question the second part of the name, marsupial. Actually, very interesting. If you do denote that marsupial, one would think of anything with a pouch that carries a baby. But if you look at where these animals get the second part, marsupial, if you look right at the hindquarters, almost where that female has been scratching herself there, it's almost like a pouch right there where they would have enrolled a whole lot of a mane through in there, and when they are alerted, they would actually unfold it, and that mane or that hair would stick out up to about half a meter in length, and that's where the term marsupial comes from. And very interesting, the males, what they would do is, with the pollen at this stage, they would actually roll in the pollen of these acacias, or now renowned as Senegaleses, and get the pollen closed into that little pouch. And what it does, will ferment over time, and obviously when they do unfold a pouch like that, it would actually give a very sweet smell, and that's one of the ways for them to actually attract females and actually get attention on themselves. A very fun and unique way of making sure that they do get what they want out of the females. So a very interesting feature that they do have, and hence the name marsupial, Antidocus marsupial. That's the Latin name of these species. Very pleasant morning, a typical African beautiful morning in Tswalu Kalahari. Almost very similar to what you would get further east of Africa, the Thompson's gazelle. But these guys are slightly bigger than the Thompson's gazelle. As they move off slightly, we're going to be doing the same, leaving them to carry on with their day and see what else we can find. And we'll be linking you or sending you off to one of our beautiful properties in Africa.
Alright, we are still here with this herd of buffalo, and we've managed to find some interesting defects in one of the cows of this herd. You see, look at her. She's missing a horn. And there's actually what looks like a fragment of it that's still left there. We can tell this is a cow because her horns don't join completely in the middle and form that bony helmet that happens in males. That bony helmet is called a boss. We refer to it as a boss. So she's got no boss. But I wonder how she lost that horn. She probably hasn't been in many fights in her life because she is a female, and females don't really have reasons to fight each other. Bulls will fight each other to mate with females, but females being the more sort of the commodity in this situation are being fought for, don't have to fight really. So I think maybe she lost it falling over. Maybe she was scratching it a bit too hard on a tree. I'm not sure. Or maybe she lost it in who knows, she could have been fighting because the bull was getting too close to one of her calves. That could be an answer. But either way, it must have been quite a force to have snapped her horn off right at its thickest part at the base there. But it seems like she's unaffected by it now. Maybe she would have felt some pain because there are a few nerves running down the center of that horn, and it looks like quite an old injury, and she does look like quite an old cow as well, so it could have happened sometime in her younger years. Buffaloes generally, the oldest they kind of live to is 20 would be a very, very old buffalo. Usually they don't make it past 15 or 16, so I think she's probably around 12, 13. She's quite old. And this herd is made of a range of different buffaloes of different ages. The core unit of a buffalo herd is cows and their calves, and that's why they stick together in these herds, to protect the calves. I'm not sure if we've seen any small calves yet amongst them. There's some younger buffaloes, but I haven't seen any small calves. But the reason that they live together is for safety for themselves and for their calves most of all. And then there will be a few dominant bulls within this herd as well. Not just one, but there can be more than one. But they all know their specific place in the hierarchy of dominant bulls. So there'll be the most dominant, second most dominant, third most dominant, and they know exactly where they stand. And since we've been here, most of them have started to lie down. I think lying down also closer to the ground is less windy, so they're not feeling the effects of the wind as much. The grass would also provide some kind of shelter from the wind because it's a little bit longer here than in other places we've been. So the grass would give them a bit of cover. And I think they've probably done most of the grazing they've needed to this early this morning, and they'll probably spend most of the day here. One nice thing about this breeze is that it keeps them quite cool. So even though it's sunny, they might be prepared to rest in the sun this morning and afternoon instead of finding shade. There's some crowned lapwings flying over them now, but there's not a whole lot going on with these buffaloes at the moment, so we're going to send you somewhere else to see what they've found for you in another location.
Well, while not much is happening with the buffaloes, Nzatini is on a mission, and finally we've got a view of her face, which is really, really cool. She's moving about all over the place. No, don't go back into the thickets, girl. She's been hugging these thickets on the edge of a big open clearing, and I think she's been looking for any signs of food, so things like duikers, scrub hares, those kinds of things. Those are all food items that would be in these thick areas, and then she's hugging the edge in case there's the likes of impalas on this big open clearing that she could potentially hunt. What's interesting, though, is that she's pushing more and more and more towards the east. So where we are now is the furthest east I've heard of her being seen since she's kind of separated from her mom. And from here to Djuma, to give you an idea of just how far we are, is probably for a leopard to walk about an hour's walk, maybe an hour and a half walk, if they keep a kind of steady pace and direction. In fact, Tingana can probably do it in about half an hour when he really strides. So it's not far from Djuma, and it's going to be interesting to see where she ends up kind of distributing to. She's a cat that is going to get pressure because in this area at the moment there is Shadulu, Kara, Tiani, and so there's not a lot of space for a female leopard. So I expect that she might potentially have to make a bit of weight. Now, I don't want to move too much just yet because there's a big termite mound, and I'm hoping that she's going to go up the termite mound. You'll see it just over there. So let's just see if she decides to head in that direction. She was kind of walking roughly towards it, and if she does, then we can kind of reposition. But she seems to also not really enjoy vehicles too much in front of her. She kind of changes direction when she does. It's part of the reason why I just want to stay still. But there she comes out in the open. She's moving just at the base of the termite mound there. You can just see her. There we go. So she's kind of watching, and often you'll find that they'll go up the mounds just to be able to see what's going on. So Nzatini was born in 2018. I've just got to remember which month. So she's, I think now about 2.5, if I remember correctly. I saw her as a little cub. Just went with some friends on a drive, and she was in the area, and that was in, I'll find the photo, but it's, I think 2018, somewhere around April, May, if I'm not mistaken. So yeah, she's 2.5. All right, I'm going to try and see if I can get a view of her again, because she's moved a little bit. Obviously in this area, we've got to just be a little bit careful with our signal, but I should be okay because we're quite high up on this big open clearing. I was really hoping she was going to come up onto the clearing itself and we'd get her just walking out, but that's very seldom that a leopard would do something like that. For the most part, they prefer to be in the thicker areas. Being out in the clearings doesn't really help her very much. I think she might have gone onto the mound. I just want to see a lot of the vehicles are positioning themselves for the mound itself, but she's on the wrong side of the mound for us, which is not ideal. Oh, there she is. Okay, so hopefully we'll be able to get a nice view of her from here. There we go. She's positioned herself beautifully on top of the mound. You clever girl. Well done. We were hoping she'd go up onto the mound, and she has. Very, very cool. The leopard dynamics at the moment are going to be fascinating to see how they unfold. I have a suspicion that those cubs, or the cub that was killed this morning, Shidulu had moved those in the last day or two. And remember I was saying yesterday that Tingana was very close to this area, and Zatini's been around, and I think she felt a bit of pressure and she's moved them. And I wouldn't be surprised even if those cubs were at an interim kind of little den, that she was just holding them in until she could move them again. And I wouldn't have been surprised if today she was going to move them into Djuma somewhere. She's been kind of coming into Djuma the last 2 days, which is often an indication that she might be kind of looking and scouting for dens. And obviously, the worst has happened, but hopefully there still is another one, and that she will move it. And she's definitely going to move it now. She's not going to keep that cub at the den, but it's going to be intriguing to see if Nzatini starts to push her more to the west, or if Shidulu pushes Nzatini towards our side. There's a lot going on. There's also obviously Nsele in this mix. So a number of different females all competing for the same spot is going to make for a very, very, very interesting next 6 months to a year. That's just on the western side. We also got obviously Klalamba, Tandi, we've got Sabui, we've got Langa, we've got Inkanyeni, Monzo, Inkanyeni's daughter. So there is a lot of leopard that is around, and it's going to really make for interesting viewing over the course of the next little bit. Now, she's gone behind the mound itself. Not sure exactly where she's going to disappear to from there. We'll try and kind of keep up. I expect her to go towards the dam. The dam is obviously a place of water, and it's very, very hot now, and she's been walking a lot, so I'm sure she's going to head that way and try and go and have a little bit of drink of water. That's what I think anyway. Awesome. I'm so glad we got to her. It's a weird morning for me because there's this kind of depression feeling of the fact that this cub was killed, but at the same time it's always nice to showcase a new leopard, that's for sure. I don't know where she went though. I think she's heading down the slope a little bit further. Let's just try and see if we can get a view of her again. While we do that, I was going to hope that she's going to come to the next mound in front. So I don't see her now.
Welcome back, everybody. We find ourselves in the north of Buffelshoek with a very big, large elephant bull, and some of you might wonder how sometimes we're able to tell whether it's a male. And right now it's very easy. It's a 5-legged elephant feeding on the very nutritious little forbs and herbs that are growing here on this low floodplain. An area that has accumulated lots of nutrients, tends to become a little bit sodic due to the evaporation of moisture, leaving salts behind. But after rain, these sort of seemingly very overgrazed areas become an abundance with forbs and wildflowers. This elephant is using his prehensile trunk to graze and scratch his ear, of course. He's a nice big boy. We're up in the north, Bufosuk. Behind there is a big dam, close to Hunter's Moon Camp. And if you were with us evening before last, we had that puff adder release. It was just around the corner here. He's going to go and have a little browse on. Looks like a jackalberry growing out of the termite mound. Just a small munch. Just a passing through. Lots of antibiotic properties in jackalberries. But he didn't seem like he enjoyed that very much. He had a mouthful and dropped it on the floor. He's going to go find himself some shade. It's definitely warming up here in the north. What a dramatic morning, though. We heard Tristan's update and we quickly switched over to have a look, and we saw what went down. My heart goes out to him. It's not something very nice to witness, be a part of. But it's nature, everybody. Nature is a cruel beast. Okay, let me try to get around here, see if we can get you another view. The road does angle around this corner here. Which would be wonderful. Big elephant bulls are so relaxed for the most part. So sort of docile. Just going to crawl up here. See if we can see him. He's going to say, hello, Steve. What's going on? Hello, big boy. He's had a proper little bathing session in the dam. Look how big he is. Now, I wasn't before, Jared. Apologise for that. Just move up here slightly. Look at the big boy moving. He's going to feed on the termite mound. Here, a pearl spotted owlet in the background. A lilac-breasted roller. Jen, it's a process. You know, in the beginning, elephants follow their mum around, and mum picks up plants and digs and does all sorts of things for the first few years, and the youngsters very close by. And it actually develops a smell for every single plant. I wouldn't necessarily say that elephants look at the food that they eat, but they definitely can smell it. I've used the explanation before. If you closed your eyes and picked up a fruit bowl, and you picked up individual fruits and put it to your nose, you'd be able to tell well, whether it's a peach or an orange, maybe an apple. Apples don't have the strongest of smells outside of on the skin, but you'll be able to smell a peach and maybe a nectarine, and elephants have got very keen smell. So they've learned through their mum what to eat, what not to eat, and so it just becomes sort of not instinctive, but a learned behavior. They just stick the trunk, ooh, I like that one, I like that one. Maybe they use some visual as well, but I think a lot of it is they see the bush, they go, oh, I'm going to walk up, and they drop it if they don't like it. But they've learned. And a fella like this, late 30s, maybe in his 40s, he's eaten lots, and he's learned lots and lots about what to eat and when to eat it. So we're going to carry on up here and go and check out a wonderful area on the east called Champagne Clearing.
All right, look what we found for you all now, having moved off from our buffaloes and trying to go somewhere a little bit more sheltered from the wind. We decided to go to check one of the dry riverbeds and dry water holes that's full of fever trees, and we found this beautiful mixed herd of antelope and giraffes. We've got impala here. We've got, looks like 5 or 6 giraffes and wildebeest. And I think they are coming here for a few reasons. One is that this area was recently burnt. There was a fire that went through here. And it wasn't so recent, but you can't see that it's been burnt because the grass has grown up so quickly and lusciously that the animals have swooped in and are now capitalizing and enjoying the grass, the new growth that's grown out of the burnt area. And when a fire goes through an area, it rejuvenates the soil, it releases minerals into the soil, it actually places stress on the plants, the grasses themselves, that makes them grow quicker. And with a lot of other complex processes that happen within the plants during fire, they actually result in being much more nutritious for the animals directly after a burn. So the animals love it. So that's why the wildebeest and the impala are probably here. But these giraffe are here to feed on the beautiful fever trees that you can see growing, dwarfing them actually, growing next to the dry water hole. See those trees that are almost have a lime green bark? Those are the fever trees that I'm talking about, and giraffes love to eat them. They are quite tall, so they're probably the only animals apart from elephants that could reach these trees, and as a result there's probably lots of leaves on them still, so lots of food. Some of these impala look quite fat. So a question coming in from Druid Washington, and he's asked, do giraffes actually blink? And yeah, they do blink. They only have one set of eyelids, and to keep their eyes moist, they need to blink every now and again, especially in wind like this. And maybe if we watch them closely, we'll see them blink. Often I've watched giraffes and thought, or other animals as well, and thought, these things blink, because you can watch them for a long time and they won't blink. But I think they just blink a lot less frequently than us. Our eyes are quite sensitive. Alright, it's getting very windy here. We're going to find a more sheltered spot, and we're going to send you off to another spot.
So welcome back to the Mara. We've come across this bachelor herd of 3 bulls. There's about 4, and it seems like they're resting, but one is a little bit nervous. Look at how he's raising his head to try and get at least a scent of what's in front of them. they have a very good sense of hearing and smell. Look at how it's just sniffing. So these bulls never leave this area because in the background you can see there's marsh, there's lots of water, there's lots of fresh grass there. So normally when these bulls become old, they always isolate themselves and they pick up home range which is about 3 to 4 kilometers square, where they'll always walk back and forth to the marshes like this. Because they've lost molars, their molars are actually worn out. So it's become difficult for them to chew the hard grass because these buffaloes are normally bulk grazers, so they eat lots of grass. And for these guys who get old, when their molars are slightly or worn out, they cannot chew the hard grass. That's why they prefer where the grass is a little bit soft for them to eat. Now, behind me we have also two. These are the ones that were sparring yesterday. You can see one Catholic enjoying a ride, while others are just waiting for the insects when they're disturbed to get a bite. And over in the distance, I can see some wildebeest. That's a big herd. And I can see amongst them there's some zebras and topis as well. So it's a very good combination of a mixed herd where we have zebra, wildebeest, topi, and buffaloes. Lots of them are grazing, so it seems like it's a good area for them to feed, because also in that area there's a part of a marsh where they're also enjoying that water and the soft grass there. I might be heading to the river if time allows to see if the herd walking toward there and see if there's a possible crossing as I take you over to another live location.
Well, here I have one very big elephant and looks like he's gonna disappear on me, but he's one of the big boys of the triangle. He's in mast and looks like he's making his rounds looking for females in estrus. Remember, he has been waiting for this time to come, because they start getting into season at the age of about 30 onwards, and so when they're in mast, they will stay in mast for over 1 year, and so he really utilizes that time because he travels a lot, making sure that he finds a female and to make sure that his generation is going to live. So he has to mate with very many females. I have to see if I can see him again. He's behind this bush. But it's typical to come across these males every now and then to see how fast he's moving. It looks like he's going slowly, but he's moving really fast. He's right behind this bush here. He's gonna come into view shortly. There he is. He's a big guy. He's a good, 5 tons of muscle and power. And he's either knows that there's a female in that direction that is in season, and that's why he's heading into that direction. They have very low rumbles, or communication. Something. I don't know what he picked up there, but definitely there was something. he stopped and smelt it, sniffed it, make sure, see how quickly he disappears in that small brush. He's gonna come around the other side. I'm gonna move on. You know, looking at his size, he could be over 40 years old. And here he comes. I wouldn't want, to make him angry in any way. They can be very dangerous when they're in must. And looks like he's coming to join the road or the truck. It looks like he crossed the river. He's got a watermark on his legs. It looks like he's wearing some socks. So definitely he must have crossed the river. He is a big boy. Look at him. Crossed over the road. Yes. Maybe he smells that the girls are on that side. That's where he is heading. Sometimes they associate in groups of up to 20, in bulls. But when one comes in season like this guy, then he is gonna hang around all by himself. He takes charge. He makes sure that all the girls that he's trying to find are his. Usually, if he comes across a herd and there's a female in season, you will find that other males will be hanging around there. But the girl has to choose. She chooses which male to mate with. Sometimes a fight, erupts, and big bulls like this will fight. Usually the victor gets the chance to mate, but the female has to agree. She has to choose, who it is. Mostly it's the biggest, the strongest, and usually with the largest tusks. And it's agreeable because also for the females, they want to have a stronger gene, so they will mate with the strongest and the biggest and the most feared by everybody else. Looks like he's gone quite out of range, and so we're gonna move on. And let's move to a live location, see what's there.
From the elephants to our troop of baboons who look so playful as they're walking, and some others are also foraging. I can see one of the alpha males is actually sitting sentinel watching over for predators as the rest of the troop are busy feeding. I can see that young one eating grass seeds, pulling off the stem. And also when they're walking like this, they pick up rocks and turn them upside down to pick spiders, scorpions, and sometimes even lizards. So baboons are omnivorous. They will take meat and plant matter. A little bit of a groom there. See, that's a young male. And when you walked over or past that big male, that is one way of showing submission. And when they groom each other, or when they show their behind to the big males, that is one way of showing a little bit of submission and becoming social to him, because they don't want any conflict with the big males, because that can be fatal, because they always fight them off. So for them to be welcome or accompany them in this troop, they have to be submit. I can see one also enjoying a jockey ride. Sandra, a big troop can go up to about 60 to 100. I've seen a troop of about 85, and it's reckoned that can reach up to 100. So these trips sometimes can cover a long distance from the roosting area, they can walk over about 20 or even 40 kilometers sometimes, depending on the weather. But it seems like because of the marsh here, they enjoy the coming here to eat and also to drink. So baboons need to drink water on a daily basis. So sometimes I've seen them walking towards the river. Oh, that's a little run there. So youngsters will keep on chasing each other, especially the males, fighting. And those from the alpha family actually bully the rest of the troop members. So saying they walk long distance for water. And if water is not available, sometimes you see them heading to the Mara River where they're very, very intelligent and smart. Well, they pick a spot to drink. They always choose where it's rocky, where they know the crocodile cannot get easy reach on them. Asking for some grooming. Beverly, not that I've seen them eating, but when baboons when they're foraging, walking like this, we have terrestrial nesters. We have birds that nest on the ground, so those chicks sometimes can fall prey to the baboons. And also when they climb up on big trees like the fig trees, when they go up to eat the fruits, they sometimes can pick on the nest to eat those helpless chicks that are in the nest. Not quite often that you can see them going after birds, but the young chicks in the nest or the ones that are terrestrial can fall prey to the baboons. Oh, we have elands there. It seems like they're all resting. I can see eland, I can see topi, I can see wildebeest. That's a nice mixed herd, and you can see all of them are facing our direction. That is simply because they're not seeing danger, but they're resting. Elands are always browsers sometimes because of how they feed. That's why you see them close to the bushes. But you often see them in the plains where they'll eat on grass. Always dominated by a big bull who always demands respect from the younger bulls amongst these herds. So you'll notice that the wildebeest and the topi are grazing because they know the topi are facing the other direction, so there's heightened alert when it comes to danger. So that is very important when animals come into a mixed herd. So there's always one that will alert the rest when it comes to predators. This place has become a haven of activity. Now herons have come in. Reddy, thank you for your question. The biggest population of antelopes in the Mara, I would say, is elands and impala. So we find sometimes herds of about 120, 80, 60 of elands. And because we have lots of small harems wherever we go in, let's say impala, so I'll say there also population is up high. Our herons have arrived here because the water level is going down, so they take advantage of the fish, the tadpoles, and even frogs that are in these waters. Because the temperatures are warming up, you can see also the Fasa waterbuck resting. He's picked a spot where it's a little bit cool, there's shade. Well, these birds have come now because when it starts to warm up and these pools are becoming shallow, so all the tadpoles, fish that are in that water will come up for shade, as these birds sometimes spread their wings to form a canopy like umbrella, hence the name sometimes umbrella birds. So when they come up for shade, they take advantage of that. Very patient. Oh, he doesn't want him there. These swamps play an important role in providing food and water for animal species here in the Mara. So in 2 hours' time, we'll see elephants coming here. And then later on in the day, you'll see the elephants heading back. We've seen lots of birds here. We've seen topi, we've seen Tifasa waterbuck. And our little heron here is out on a hunt. He's out on a mission. Despite them going for fish and tadpoles in the water, you'll see them on the terrestrial area and the grasses hunting for snakes and even rodents. The little mice, the little grass rats that always walk in these grasses fall prey to these herons. They have a distinctive walk when they are out on a mission hunting. They startle over the grass, or maybe sometimes when they're in the water, they startle the water, and anything that walks out of there falls prey to them. See how he's elongating his neck to look over the grasses? Very, very nice. And they're very patient. Sometimes they can sit even for half an hour just waiting for prey to emerge out of the grasses. Not sure what he's seen. Let's see what will come out there. Like I told you, they're very patient. Now maybe he's locked his eyes on prey. Or maybe there's a slight movement in the grass. So he's waiting for the perfect time to strike. Maybe there's something. Or maybe not. Because the grass rats are so fast, so they have to wait patiently so that they strike. Otherwise, they can scoop them and they end up missing it. So they have that very fast strike when they hold on for a minute and watch over the grass. So if anything moves from there, they just strike like lightning. Seems like a very nice place to spend at least some time because of this swamp. So I'm going to take you over to another live location.
Welcome back to Tswalu Kalahari. We are at the watering hole, and what we are watching here is some black-winged lapwings that have just been coming in. It looks like they're nesting somewhere around here, and actually very interesting. They used to be called plovers, but there we go, a little bit of mating there just to confirm what I've just said about the nesting. And the term blackwing, lapwing, it comes from what sound they make. It actually sounds like a blacksmith with the ping of the metal when it's being hit or when it's being worked with. And that's where the blacksmith part of the name actually comes from. But also very interesting, these are one of the birds that when they do actually make a nest, nest, they would almost make a nest anywhere, anyhow, wherever they want to and however they want to. It will be a nest on the ground with little sticks, and what they would do to prevent it from any animal stepping on it or coming over it is they would actually dive bomb. If it's a very, very big animal, they would fly up and come scooping at the animal to try and veer it off from their nest. But what's also very interesting is if that animal is a predatory animal, like a jackal, for example, what they would do is then they would actually display like a broken wing and start slowly moving away from that nest. And that jackal, obviously, or that predator would be very interested because they would think it's an easy, quick meal with an animal that is injured. And just as soon as they are about to be caught, and that's when they would actually fly away. And that's how they have adapted of making these strategies just to survive out here in places where it's almost impossible for any other bird to actually survive. So they would make these nests on game path and so on, but a very interesting behavior when it comes to birds. Obviously always found around water. That's another feature with them, and that's why you see them where they are right now. There's also some roan coming in there, coming to drink, obviously trying to quench the thirst before it gets too warm for the day today. You're looking at temperatures just rising over 36 degrees today at the peak of the day. So these animals are already just quenching the thirst for that. Very, very alert. You can see, I mean, for any animal coming towards water, safety is always number one. Check around, drink, check around, and then move on. I mean, this is where they can be caught off guard, and especially because water is such a very important element, they still have to keep guard and make sure that they are safe when they do come to drink. All right, folks, we're gonna keep moving, and there's some ducks also in the distance, and we'll be sending you off to the next very beautiful location somewhere in Africa. Thank you very much.
Welcome back to the Mara. You see that buffalo staring. There was a monitor lizard that went past, and there's another one just walking towards where the monitor lizard went. But they're not scared of the monitor lizard, actually. So it's busy looking for snakes. Sometimes they also go for eggs. I've seen one time here where a crocodile had laid her eggs, and they were busy guarding the nest. And this monitor lizard, they take an advantage of the crocodile eggs, especially now that we're almost getting to the season where we'll see lots of crocodiles on the banks of the rivers and these tiny swamps. So because it's gone, we're back to our herd, who looks like they want to go and have a drink, but look at them. Some of them are resting well. The ones that are on the lead, just next to the water, are not quite sure if there's a crocodile or not. They have to be super cautious because these swamps sometimes can harbor crocodiles. I remember when I was growing up, when we came across such pools, we had to watch or look very carefully, because sometimes crocodiles will hide in these murky waters. And because crocodiles have a third eyelid on their eyes, they can also conceal themselves in the water, not to be seen. this looks like a small herd. The rest of the herd will come to join in. So sometimes after the rains, you find that they don't always make long trips to the river. So those pools that form after the rains, these animals take an advantage of that. By looking at this herd here, I'm sure there's nothing going on at the river because there's adequate water here. So I think there's no need of me going all the way to the Mara River because I can see the concentration of big herd to my right, and I think most of them will come to drink here. So I'm going to take you over to another live location.
Well, talking about herds, we've got a herd animal that's all on its own, and it seems like our morning is just going to be one of a depressing state because there's a female impala and you can see she's very alert. You can see that she's not happy at all. And I suspect that this female has given birth to a stillborn because the reason I say that is when we got here, there was just vultures and tawny eagles and bateliers everywhere. Now, vultures on their own don't necessarily indicate anything dead, but when you add tawnies and bateliers, there's something very, very fresh that's died. And so, with the last few days, there's been another sighting of a stillborn impala not far from here. It does happen from time to time, and I think that's what's happened to this poor female, and that's why she's just staring in this direction, kind of looking to see if maybe her little one is actually alive or has come to life. But I can't find a sign of a carcass, and I can't find a sign of the little baby, but you don't see female impalas like this on their own unless they've had a little one, and now's the time of year where they are starting to give birth. So it's another very sad story. I'm trying to see under her tail if there's any sign of an afterbirth hanging out. Sometimes you can see a little bit of afterbirth, but you see how she's looking? And all of those birds of prey are behind us where she's kind of staring. It does look like she does have a bit of afterbirth, doesn't she? Come on, girl, just stop for us so we can see. So we'll just try and see if she's got something behind her tail. Yeah, it looks like there's red there. I just want to check with my binos quickly. Shame, my girl. Did you have a stillborn? Yes, we are having the most traumatic morning this morning. We had to leave in Zotini, unfortunately, because she just went into the most heinous thicket. It was impossible for us to actually follow her in there, and so we left her. And then some of you might be wondering why we left Shadulu. So the reason we left Shadulu is because she needed time for herself. It's not something that you want to do. That leopard is in distress. It doesn't know where its cub is. When we left, she'd come down the tree and was starting to chuff and call and was sniffing right where the hyena ate that cub. And so the right thing to do is just to leave her and let it go. Yes, she definitely had given birth. Whether it's a stillborn, I'm not sure. But if you look at her tail area, you see all the blood and residue there. So maybe the little one is still alive, and maybe these birds were attracted by the afterbirth. But I don't think so. Generally, when you see that congregation of birds, it's because it's dead, I'm afraid. Shamian, you're asking what causes a stillborn to happen. Number of factors. Generally, it's poor condition. So if the mother has really struggled with any with food, but that shouldn't be the case in this scenario because of the fact that we've had a fairly good winter from a food availability point of view after good summer rains, and the summer rains have come through now. But if you actually look at her condition, she is quite skinny. She's got, her ribs are showing, so maybe, just maybe, she it's just got some underlying problem that's caused that to happen. Or what happened was it was born last night and maybe something like a jackal got hold of it, or even something like a civet is possible. Wildcats, not really. Honey badgers, possibly. Baboons, possibly. But they normally would, baboon would eat the whole thing. So it might have been something that killed it and then it just lay down. Could also be, sometimes you get stillborns that take, or actually deaths of the baby when it's a massive temperature drop. But that shouldn't be the case today because we haven't had a huge temperature change in the last few days. So I don't really know what it could have caused it. I mean, like I say, the baby might be here. It might be just in amongst these thickets, and they just were attracted to the afterbirth. It's possible, but I would be very surprised. You see how she's looking? No, shame, girl. I don't think I can do this today anymore. This has just been the most ridiculously emotional game drive in many respects. It's really not nice to see animals in distress like this, looking for their young ones after carrying them. Okay, well, we'll sit here for a little bit. Maybe we'll get some sort of positive news and see some ears flicking. We'll hope for the best.
Oh, welcome back, guys. Just before we left the watering hole, actually a very nice, pleasant surprise with some sable head coming to drink. And from the past segments, we've been referring to these animals, your majestic sable. So if you look at the coloration, already you see how dark or black they are. Also very curved horns going back. But a very interesting thing, if you take the Afrikaans name, it's very, very, very descriptive of what the animal actually is. In Afrikaans, they would call it swart witpens. Swart referring to black and witpens referring to the white belly, and it's exactly what it is. But if you compare it to what I've been giving reference to, as in your oryx, with a coloration, oryx being very, very light, with the instead of the black almost being gray, but the facial appearance is what confuses a lot of people. But now here you've got the sable, and you can make reference to that. So that gives a very good point of reference to compare them and the roan and the oryx, which we all get here at Tswalu Kalahari. Some sandgrass there flying by, and that's the sound you're getting. Moon dust, a very beautiful comment there with the antelopes that you do get in the Kalahari. And as beautiful as they are, for me, it's the Kalahari stands out by adaptation. Everything, like you look at the color, it has to do with the survival of the species. Everything is put in place for a particular reason. And I mean, how beautiful can those colors be put in contrast with the red soil, with how the heating, the cooling, with how they have to survive in terms of actually colorating themselves against the conditions that they are given. So all of that comes back to how the animal itself has to actually survive, and it really does stand out. It is an outstanding feature to actually notice. I'm very happy that somebody is actually noticing that. Beautiful, beautiful. I think this is where they'll drink, and they'll slowly start moving off, and we'll be sending you off to the next beautiful property. Thank you very much.
I'm sure because it's heating up, all the animals want to come and drink water. Look at what we have here. We have two Egyptian geese. Egyptian geese are normally grazers, and that's why you see them foraging on those tiny grasses. But here we also have a black-headed heron and the grey herons, who was waiting patiently for tadpoles and other creatures in this water. So sometime later we can find elephants here. I always love to see elephants in these marshes and swamp because they pick the grasses, they sprinkle or spray water on themselves, and sometimes they also mud wallow on the edges of these swamps. All these herons are waiting patiently, and when the temperatures rise, they'll all be flapping and opening their wings to form something like a canopy and shade. We really had a very good morning today where we saw Bahati. Good thing that Bahati never actually got too close to that male lion, and Mom is doing a very good job. We have our wildebeest who are resting. This is that time of the day that they need to rest before they carry on. And you can see some of them are actually sitting down while all those others are waiting to come and drink. So thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for watching. Thank you for your questions and comments. We've really had a very interactive morning. So we'll love to see your comments and questions in the afternoon show, which will be at about 1600 hours East African time, 1500 hours Central African time. See you later, and bye-bye from here to Nane Tena.
Africa is very special, and when you come down here, even when you're watching through our camera, the landscapes change from desert to bushveld to up in the Masai Mara where there's grassland. That means that the biodiversity changes as we move along Africa. And what I love most about connecting with you guys is the fact that I get to share these wonderful experiences with thousands of people. It's happening right now, live. Catch me in the wild on channel 183 on DSTV.
The program features live coverage of an African safari and may include animal kills and carcasses. Viewer discretion is advised.
Good afternoon and welcome in the Masai Mara of Kenya. We have giraffes that are resting here. My name is Tim and welcome aboard to your very own safari live from the African wilderness.